All right, welcome everybody to Genesis Mindset. So today we have some heavy hitters joining us today. So we got Bud, backed by popular demand. We got Trey from the Verse, and we got good old Zach, one of the BFF Bestie Freedom Fighters. So first of all, the first thing we're going to look at, that I want to look at, is did Maria rug Hux or Hook, which is the hex token, the new hex token, or am I wrong? And really, this is something that's really important to look at. And we'll do a quick investigation of that, and then we're gonna get into some of these topics. I know Bud reached out to me, he wanted to talk about things like asset protection, taxes, becoming your own bank. He also mentioned that he was borrowing against his life insurance, which I thought was quite interesting. So a few little investment opportunities that you can take advantage of within the ecosystem. So first of all, guys, how's it going?
It's going great, Steven.
Yep, very well. Just a bit tired.
I can see, Zach, you look wrecked.
Yeah. So after everybody speaks for a minute, I'll tell everybody what I've been up to.
Go ahead now, Zach. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, yeah. I guess I got back from Thailand recently, and I came back from Thailand so I could start working. Right. So I had waited for about a week or week and a half until I got like the call that said like this job opportunity that I've been waiting for was ready for me, and the job is like quality control for the automotive industry, and I basically have to be at work at 6 a.m. So it's been actually pretty perfect for me listening to your streams every day. That's why you see me hop on, because it's like when I'm driving to work, it's like 5:30 in the morning. That's when you're doing your live stream every day. It's at the same time. So I get to listen to you on my way to work when the sun is not even up yet, you know? But anyway, so I have to do that 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, right? But they pay me really, really well. They put me in a hotel. They pay like for my food every day. So it's actually a really good setup. And I'm just like super excited because all summer I've had to like basically live off my crypto, and now I have money and I'll be able to put the money that I'm making into crypto instead of take out. I'll be able to put in every week instead of the other way. So yeah, I'm just excited about that.
Nice,
super tired, and I'll have to go to sleep probably in about 45 minutes or get ready to go to bed because I got to sleep at 10 o'clock.
Yeah, man, no worries. Yeah, you just jump off whenever you want. And then obviously for everyone else that's watching, the link to join is in the description. So if you want to join, it's a free forum for anyone. If you have something that you want to vent or something that you want to share or ask or whatever, yeah, just jump in. So Trey, I don't think we've actually met before. So I've been on the Verse, but I've never met you officially. So how's it going, man?
Hey man, I'm doing good. It's really nice to formally meet you as well. I'm kind of the guy that works in the background on the Verse, bro. So Chris and I have been in it since day one, and Chris is a very technical mind, and I'm the art side of things, and so we play a lot of different roles, wear a lot of different hats, but we both really like TA, and we love go on stream twice a week. And we talk about our favorite projects all across different chains. So we're cross-chain agnostic, and we make sure we try to get it into everything that makes sense. And we believe that if it makes money, it makes sense. So I'm glad to be here and talk about making money and asset protection and all the hottest new things that are going on in Pulsechain and the things that you guys are interested in.
Yeah, nice, man. I know that you guys had some of the first videos about Atropa, and I remember Chris really going down that rabbit hole, and that's really some of my first forays into the Atropa ecosystem as well. So you guys have been at it and studying and researching and grinding, so respect to the both of you. So yeah. All right, so I'll start with a screen share here. I just want to go over this. So Hux, obviously we'll have a look very quickly at the chart for hooks, hex, hooks. So we had this big rug. So basically I was about it on stream and there was a big rug. And so this is one of the, I guess, quote unquote, beautiful or dangerous things about the Atropa ecosystem. And so what I missed some very key things about this, and the key things that I missed were who was holding the majority of the supply. So in this case, it was Maria, and actually the total supply, deducting his initial supply, left 555 in liquidity. So I thought that was a cool little Easter egg there. So yeah, Maria started dumping like immediately after the stream. I was like, bro. So I think people were buying because I'm just talking about, oh, how good is this? It's a 111, and then yeah, he rugged it. So, but was it a rug? So I wanted to go through this. So Atropa_PLS. So this was a great little write up. So I'm just going to go through this very quickly. So obviously, Atropa is something that you really kind of need to learn about and get familiar with. And it seems like Maria is trying to build this ecosystem that is anti-ruggers, even though it looks like, well, this is a rug. I mean, even on Twitter now, there's been a bit of a storm this morning about Maria rugging it. So there was a great post by Kyle, one of the Hex OGs. But one of the interesting things about this is Maria was also selling down this token into Hex and then burning the liquidity. So he was creating the PLP and then sending the PLP to treasury bills. So once it's in the treasury bill contract, to the best of my knowledge, you can't actually take it out. So it's as good as burnt PLP. So it's as good as sending it to the debt address, unless there might be some sort of contract call in there. But in any case, so if you're new to Atropa, here's some key factors to consider before aping any token launch. So does the token have burnt LP? So burnt LP creates a price floor, but the pairing matters. So for example, Gold Standard, which launched yesterday, that was one of the 3 tokens, has burned LP with Bullion and Ogen, which are strong tokens within the ecosystem. However, if the LP is paired with mintable tokens like No Nukes or MV, I think that's supposed to be MV, the token carries significantly more risk. So learning how to analyze the LP pairs, this is this website, which I have in the description there. And so he also recommends seeing if the token is mintable and then checking how to go through that process of checking that. So he outlines the process here, how you can do this. Actually, I don't know. I think maybe Mindfulness runs this. So she outlines how to do this. So yeah, SCGUI.xyz. I think it's supposed to be smart contract GUI.xyz. So keep in mind, many of Maria's contracts are unverified. So if you do want to find out more, Sunny's Pub is a really good place for alpha. So this is important to know. So does the token have a fixed supply? And so when you check the contract, you'll be able to check that. So when you upload the ABI into that smart contract GUI, so for example, BFF that the late had 777, but now some of that supply has been burnt. This Hex token, this new Hex token has 111111. So we're assuming that no more supply can be minted out so that the supply is fixed. All right, Sunny can't figure it out, it looks like, with his microphone, unfortunately. So having a look at the market cap, I thought this was a really interesting point, something that I didn't really consider. So what's the market cap? So lower market cap usually carries less risk since the likelihood of large dumps is smaller. So we were talking about Poppy yesterday as an example where the liquidity was matched or close to the market cap. So in that case, to move the price, it takes a lot of economic volume because all the tokens are in liquidity. So when a token has a high market cap and Maria holds a significant portion of the supply, it's important to understand his strategy. So he's basically saying Maria often sells down high market cap tokens as both an anti-sniper tactic and a way to create real value from fake value. So when snipers enter the ecosystem, and this is also something one of my Hex buddies mentioned as well. So I really like that I'm getting a confluence of information because he's not too huge into the Atropa ecosystem, but he knows about like how to make a project good. So when snipers enter the ecosystem and attempt to profit quickly, Maria strategically sells the top to shake them out, which is exactly what happened here yesterday. So the stream went on and people started buying, probably without even looking into it. And then yeah, even myself, I was looking at it for hours and just missed those critical things about who's actually holding the majority of the supply, which was Maria. So if we looked at GBABY, it was a lot clearer, and he actually goes into that. So, I'll put this in the description in the end as well. So, but I'll copy and paste that. So if you guys want to have a look at it. So for example, the launch method was very similar. The Hex launch method was similar to GBABY. So with GBABY, Maria was clear about his goals. He involved top holders, encouraged them to buy at specific price levels as a form of sacrifice, and openly communicated his plan to sell the token down to 10 cents until he held none. So that was what he was calculating. So it opened at 14,800, and that's why he's saying that's his price target. And then he sold it down to 10 cents, and then he had no more supply left. And so people then would have scooped some up at that point, and now it's sitting, I believe, in the $50 range. So in contrast, recent launches have come into, so there's been no instructions with any of these. So that's probably why maybe there's been like a little bit more fear around it. So this, I want to really highlight this because this is like, I'm so glad she said this. So, oops. Navigating the Atropa ecosystem requires a mix of knowledge, caution, and strategy. This guide aims to help you make informed decisions, but always remember the importance of doing your own research and understanding the risk involved. This one especially, crypto is not about blindly following advice from strangers online. I'm a stranger online. Greed often clouds judgment, and it's easy to get caught up in the hype. Take the time to assess tokens objectively and make decisions based on your risk tolerance and understanding of the ecosystem. So I definitely wanted to highlight that because I also felt like I kind of felt a little bit of guilt, I'll be honest, because I'm talking about it and then people buying it and then it gets dumped down. And I didn't even kind of look at Maria's holdings. So I felt like bad for people, but at the same time, yeah, you shouldn't really be following just because I'm talking about it. Don't use me as a signal to buy, please. So anyway,
Steven, there's no way you can get away from that. Okay, people are gonna buy whatever you talk about, no matter what. You know, I ran into these same problems back in like when they were launching like the first Pulse mutual bond and things like that, and MV. That was one of the ones too. One of the first ones that we realized was mintable. I was shilling that like the first day it was launched. I was like, oh yeah, everybody, MV, new token. And me and everybody got wrecked on it, you know, and we just realized like, oh my God, this was terrible.
Did you know it was mintable, Zach, MV?
No, not until later, you know, but we didn't know what a decompiler was, like how to decompile bytecode and find the minting function in the contracts after we decompiled it, you know, because it's not verified code, right? So you can't really see what it is. We had to learn about what decompiling was and how to do that.
That's kind of one thing that I love about the Atropa ecosystem as well. You can kind of have the mindset of like, oh, Maria rugged and, you know, woe is me. Or you can be like, all right, well, I messed up. How did I mess up? What did I do wrong? And if you believe in the benevolence of Maria, you can use it as a learning experience. So it's almost like Maria is like teaching us these lessons about how to be safe with the blockchain through these little forays into different kinds of tokens. So because I do remember Moon King also shilling that one as well. And when Moon King shilled it, I was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to buy into that. So, yeah, you just don't know with these things, do you? So,
yep, that's it. I mean, it's really like time around Maria and seeing how they operate really is like kind of like the only way to understand, because, you know, there's going to be new people that join Atropa all the time, right? The GBABY went up so crazily just recently and it got a lot of attention. And then right after that, 3 tokens get launched. And, you know, 2 of them just like, or 3 of them, maybe all of them don't do well, you know, just because like everybody's nervous and things get sold down and now the whole market's red and it's just people are really nervous about what's going to happen and they don't trust it yet because they're new into the system, you know.
And I think you got to make the distinction, like look on the coin GBABY and look on Dex Screener and see it says, are you in the know? So that means knowledge. Do you have the knowledge? Have you been paying attention to the 414? Have you been looking at the chat log? Have you been engaging? Are you up to date on your research? The truth of the matter is it's more like a game, and this could turn into something even greater, Atropa as a game or some type of new internet on Pulsechain. I mean, I may be talking crazy, but it's an every man plays for himself type of world. And so you're liable to get wrecked very easily if you don't know what you're doing. So it's very important to know where you're going and have those sources, because that's everything in cryptocurrency. What you know, in the know, like it's right there in your face. And then immediately after, it's like, it's a test. Here's a test.
Yeah, I feel you on that one. In the know, that was also for me like kind of a bit of a clue, I suppose. And then even after feeling like I was in the know, just not being able to see it. And you mentioned this being some kind of a game, and in the old chat logs, Maria was talking about a layer 2. And so that's all this is, I feel, is leading towards dysnomia and what he's building out with dysnomia as the game. So I just wondered, Trey, like, so how confident and comfortable are you and Chris with the Atropa ecosystem? Do you guys feel like, yep, we've kind of mastered that? Because I know, for example, I just want to I mean, there's so many top lads in here, so I'm going to go through some of these guys in a minute. But Steady Pup, so our boy Steady Pup, he was basically talking in the stream the other day that he's gotten to a point where he's very comfortable with the Atropa ecosystem. His positions are like his positions are so healthy from knowing about it from the start that he hasn't really been keeping up to date with what's happening. Is that how you and Chris are with the Atropa ecosystem, or do you feel like you know the ins and outs, you don't need to learn anymore? Like how up to speed do you guys feel?
I mean, personally, I'm very happy with the research and the levers that I have in the Atropa ecosystem. I think the LP webbing is the solidification, it's the glue, and it sits a whole lot better than a bank account. And you know, I've been through the whole bear market, so seeing things go up and down is really has no effect on the way I trade or the way I look at things. And so you know, the goal is to get out initially and then leave it and basically forget about it. I don't marry any of these things. And the goal is always to get the initial profit out, but it's always to go in with that good faith to get that initial profit out. But I want to learn about these things along the way as they pop up. And, you know, having been in the industry now for so long, I know exactly where to go to when I'm trying to get information. I know where to go, where to look, who to talk to, who to inbox. People will inbox me, you know, so I have a good relationship in the crypto world that gives me an advantage. So, you know, you want to look for those types of advantages in this crypto world. And I think, you know, learning how to not marry things and how to do research, how to keep up with ecosystems, that's what's going to keep you going. Like, you know, for instance, Chris was talking about A1A when nobody had any clue about A1A or the B2B ecosystem, and you may not even have heard of B2B, and it's tied together with A1A. So when all of this is tied with PDI, I see everything that's going together, and so I have heavy confidence in the Atropa ecosystem right now. And you know, it's not, you know, the confidence is not for naught. It has good reasoning behind it.
Yeah, well, very well said, man. Very well said. So, just got a couple of new people that joined in. So, Via Boyv and MVZR. What's going on, guys? Do you want to introduce yourselves? Via Boyv, do you want to introduce yourself first? You guys there? Or maybe MVZR, do you want to introduce yourself? Unless maybe you guys just click the wrong link and you accidentally click the link to join rather than the link to bring up the stream.
Maybe.
I think so. Hey, Zach, so I'm conscious of the fact that you don't have a lot of time. So is there anything in particular that you wanted to talk about? I know you mentioned that you wanted to talk a little bit about GBABY and BFF at the late.
Yeah, basically just, I mean, BFF is one of the biggest core tokens of the Atropa ecosystem. You know, I think that, you know, a lot of tokens got launched before BFF, after BFF, still being launched, you know, so a lot of people's attention goes to different areas and they forget, you know, about what BFF meant or what it is. But, you know, it was meant to be the most liquid token basically in the Atropa ecosystem. I don't mean basically the most liquidity. I mean, in terms of the locked liquidities, and this is what the Atropa dev was really trying to push on people at the conference in Amsterdam. They were trying to really get people to understand like the percentages of a supply in locked liquidities, right? Burned liquidity pairs is very important, right? And it's, you know, about creating those different floors as it rises, right? And on those note cards, the dev gave different price targets for everything, and a lot of them were like crazy high price targets, right? With like down had like a 500x to go, you know. I forget, you know, if the TSFI had a huge range to go. But the one thing about BF and Teddy Bear just had like an up arrow, right? So it's just like it's going to kind of keep going up is what was what they were kind of saying about that. But BFF, it had just like the two prices of 8K and 40K, which they said were the levels of BFF that they were going to be basically adding liquidity and setting floors, right? And then later on in the IRC chat logs, they said that they think that a target for BFF could be $1 million per token, right? But that wasn't on the card originally, right? So the people may have thought that, you know, maybe it stops at 8K or stops at 40K and doesn't go higher or whatever like that. So the price target wasn't as great as it was for other things on those note cards. So I think maybe attention went to the other areas, but I think a lot of attention should be on BFF. It was the token that the dev was displaying on their YouTube streams, in the corner. Remember, before we hit 8K, we were really trying to get that push up there, right? And they were doing everything they can to get people to see that number. Okay, we're at 6,000, 7,000, all the way up, and then we blew past it, and everybody was like in disbelief. People didn't think he was going to go to 8K ever again, let alone go past it and not come back down, right? But yeah, it's been doing so really well so far. I mean, it's pretty much tied to everything in the market now. Somebody even added like almost $1 million worth of LP between BFF and Wrap Bitcoin. So the Wrap Bitcoin pair is, I think, the biggest pair for BFF now. So if anything moves with Wrap Bitcoin, BFF would be right there with it. One of the second biggest pairs is with Pt I, obviously. I know there's a really big pair with Vesta. There's a ton of large pairs, but the main ones I think are like the BTC and DAI pairs, obviously.
So Maria was also mentioning at some stage in the chat logs that he was going to burn some more LP at 40K. Is that right?
I think that were levels of LP additions. Yeah, for sure. But they did just
probably can't be doing. I don't think did he burn.
They burned the rest of their BFF supply and like their bear supply as well. So if they had planned on adding any more LPs for BFF or bear, I think they'll have to buy it back off the market or something. If they do have any more plans to do that, I'm not sure.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So BFF, I think it's still a good, strong community token. So I'm just going to have a look at some of these comments here. So what's going on, Heinrich? Less banking. Nice to see you again, man. Yes, definitely. Thank you, David. Hit the like, share this out. We still trust in teddy bears. That's it, Mars. So Maria he just had a stream this morning which said 0. And it was showing the Ogen contract. So yeah, I don't know. You can kind of read that however you like. So, but the last few streams before that, he was, I guess you could say, shilling teddy bear in the description. So, what's going on, Gene? Here from US and OG Bitcoin and follow Richard Hart. Nice, man. Nice. I mean, I've seen you around heaps. What's up, DJ? Grav, what's going on, man? So, I won't go through all of these because we're starting to get a lot of comments. So good evening. We got Chris in here as well. Would this be Chris?
Yeah, that's Chris.
Or is that you? Okay,
that's Chris.
nice.
He's coming in here. He's stirring stuff up.
Nice. Yeah, if you want to join up, Chris, as well, the link's in the description. Good comment, Zone. I mean, yeah, I agree. And again, it's not like Maria's rugging us. It's really like, I mean, there's lessons there, right? So if we just follow and understand, then we can't get wrecked. So what's up, Maddie? Matt, if you want to join in, more than welcome to join in. Maybe we can discuss this at some point, Mantissa, about the Mantissa and its new LP setup. I don't really know too much about the new Mantissa LP setup. And for this one, Sam, do any of you guys know anything about this? Degenesis and the reward token for dysnomia? I don't know.
No clue, really. I haven't been paying attention.
None of you guys know anything about it?
No.
Okay, fair enough. And then GBABY, that's another one that you've kind of really taken the reins on this community, Zach.
Yeah, man, I try to give people the alpha, and I try to share things on my page, and I found GBABY and I saw it going down. I saw Maria selling it. And then, obviously they're going to stop selling it at some point, right? It just doesn't go forever and it just dies. We know that the tokens just don't go to 0 and that's it, right? So I just waited and I saw it, go down really far. And I was like, holy shit, it's at like 20 cents right now. And then I blinked my eyes a few times and then it was up at like $1. So then I bought in around $1 and then I told everybody about it, right? Like at $1.15. And yeah, it's kind of stayed pretty low for like a few days, maybe like a week or two. And then it really started to pick up.
And I think, I mean, obviously there's a bit of buy volume that's happening through here as well, but this was really getting dragged up with the whole ecosystem. This was, where this was when Pt I was starting to have like a really good run and starting to take off. So, yeah, this whole area here. So, do you have any of this one, Bud?
No. I don't really do a lot of the speculation on the new stuff. I try to look at this thing. To me, the Atropa system is a decentralized bank. I don't really, I want things to get some legs under them before I participate. You know, Zach, you said that you're working and then you're going to take your money and place it into crypto. Well, I think you could benefit yourself if you started looking at your money as an employee, and you need to put your money to work all the time. Okay. One of the things I do when I make money, I stick my money in my life insurance. Why do I do that? So the first reason is life insurance sits outside of your estate, meaning you get in a car wreck, you have an incident, and you get sued. Your life insurance money is protected. Okay, so now life insurance is like crypto. There's a lot of scams, and you got to be real careful, and you got to get the right policies and the right people. But you get on a whole life policy, and you can do like a 60-40 chassis, or it even goes to a 90-10. And I'm going to give, this is going to be like when Steven's talking about some of this dysnomia stuff. Like, I don't understand it, but I can go back and rewatch it 100 times to maybe understand it. So I'll just give some very dense information here. When you put your money into life insurance, it takes the money outside of your estate, okay? And it has an annual reset provision, meaning if I start my policy on June 1, okay, and let's say I put in $10,000, then June 1 of the following year, my policy has a cap of 10%. And if the markets perform at 13 to 15%, I'm only going to get 10% of it. But now my 10,000 is 11,000. The policy resets, so my new principal is 11,000. So if the markets fall 60%, I don't lose any of my money. My principal is protected. I learned this by reading books like What Would the Rockefellers Do? And this is how they strategically plan for their money, right? So by placing the money inside the life insurance, even if it only does 7%, right? I can borrow from my life insurance at 4%. I get 3% delta just on that move. And if you set the policy up the right way, so you put the money, you work for the money, you exchange your time for the money, you put the money in the life insurance, now it's working for you. Now you can borrow from it. And as this thing grows, you'll be able to borrow from that to buy houses. You'll be able to borrow from it to pay for kids' colleges. You're establishing your own bank. Another book to read is Becoming Your Own Bank by Nelson Nash. It's the infinite banking deal, right? So then, I did this. I borrowed money from my life insurance. I came in, started buying Pt I and the entire Atropa system. And it's been fantastic, right? And so by buying in to the Atropa system then, so my money that you would consider real world money is growing. Even though I borrowed against it, I'm getting 3% delta on that. Now I'm able to speculate. Now, all of these assets I've been acquiring just in the Atropa system have performed fantastically since I've been in. But that's not enough. I want my money to give birth 3 times. Okay? So the life insurance was 1. Buying the crypto asset was 2. And I can farm or provide liquidity, right? So if I just throw that into a liquidity pool and it's kicking off yield, just like on a Pt I yield farm, right? Or a liquidity pool. So I stick that money in there. It's kicking off great APR. And so long as I never sell my principal, now you have to talk to your accountant. But if I only pull out of the liquidity pool the amount of money I made, then that's not taxed at capital gain. And when you start making a lot of money, and where I'm at, it's like 38.5% on a capital gain, right? So, or that's the tax bracket. It's actually 25, but then you got state tax. So 31, 32, depending upon where you're at geographically. But dividends are taxed different. They're taxed at like 20%, right? So now you've taken the money that you exchanged your time for, you've got it working for you. It's given birth 3 times. You've reduced your tax burden. It's outside of your estate, right? So now you're safe with it. The other question is, how do you own your private keys? When you bought a Trezor, did you buy the Trezor through a personal checking account, or did you buy it from the account that's held by your, like a 678 trust? That's a beneficiary-owned trust. You can possess some of these assets outside of your estate to protect yourself, right? I don't know if this would have worked, but this might have kept Roger Ver out of prison if he'd have set things up appropriately. So it's a whole lot to tackle. It's a very complicated subject, but I just promise you guys this: nobody cares about your money more than you. And the reason I find the Pulsechain ecosystem, this is the first time we've had a system we finally have matured to a place where you can have your own bank in the digital space, right? Like, I saw some comment in the last video I was on, and somebody said retail's here, referring to me like I'm retail. I'm not retail, right? Like, I've just been here for a decade, man. I've been to Anarchapulco, right? I actually met the Bitcoin Cash developer who spoke at that conference, the guy that saved Bitcoin, right? I met him there. I learned a lot there, but it was more of like a libertarian, and it was a Jeff Berwick thing. I got some content from it, but the conference I went to where I learned the most was the blockchain stampede in Laramie, Wyoming in 2019. I went to the law conference, and there's like 70 to 100 of us in the room. I was there for 3 days, and I heard some regulators from the SEC speak, and they said the biggest threat in cryptocurrency is anonymity. And the lady was talking, and she said that on their roadmap, they were going to outlaw Tornado Cash. So I knew they were going to outlaw Tornado Cash before it ever happened. And one of the guys on stage, I asked, I said, well, how Tornado Cash is code. How are you going to outlaw it? But one of the guys up there said, well, we'll just roll the chain back. I thought, well, shit, you guys don't know what you're doing. You don't know how this works. But that's what they thought. And somebody asked about Monero. And they said, well, Monero's on our map too. We're going to get Monero. And it wasn't 6 months later, Fluffy Pony was in jail. Right? So I go to these places to learn and to see. And I knew in 2019 we were headed into a shitstorm. And I knew that they were going to attack the space. Like, I participated I'm a guy that looks for yield, right? I participated in a lot of the ICOs, got wrecked. I participated in pool.bitcoin.com that Roger Ver put together, got wrecked, right? So I'm pretty well seasoned in getting wrecked in the crypto space. And, that's what I see with Pulsechain and with Atropa is an opportunity, if you take the responsibility on yourself to protect your assets and protect your wealth and to create dividend. But is it easy? No, it's work, man, right? But if you set this stuff up and get in the habit of doing it, and if you create the discipline in yourself, right? And the only way to ever succeed in this space is you have to work on yourself, your health, and your wealth in that order. Money is just going to accent who you are. If you haven't figured out, like, this is why I appreciate Stephen. I hear him talk about how he works on himself and he goes and he works out. So he's got the first 2 things. He's working on his wealth. But what is Stephen going to do? Stephen wants to build meditation centers. So Stephen's going to become the greatest version of Stephen, and his light's going to shine bright in this world. And he's going to help a lot of people. And the amount of good that comes from Stephen is going to be exponential, right? So we don't need in this space a beneficial, like a benevolent dictator. This space can be what crypto was supposed to be, right? It can be a decentralized thing that everybody collectively, you can provide value, you can provide LP, you can do all this, right? You can play a part. Like if you're coming in and chasing short-term gains and ripping out your money, are you a net benefit or a net negative?
Probably
Are
a net
you
negative.
becoming the future you want to see?
You have to have
Yeah.
that. I mean, you need that. You need exit liquidity. So you need people that don't know what they're doing also. I mean, it's
Agreed.
part of how we actually make money in this space.
Agreed.
And
Agreed.
you know,
And
I like the point, but you also got to recognize not everybody has a nest egg to play with in this space.
I understand.
We're looking for 10,000x gains in a short period of time. 5,000x gains in a 6-month period is astronomical on a $500 bet. That gives someone a nest egg to play with and then put in life insurance. So I like that. It's a cool way to make the money work, but I think a lot of times in this space, you're just gonna encounter degenerate activity. This is not fintech. This is not traditional finance. It's the wild west, and people are gonna get wrecked, and people are gonna give up their money to the people that have held and understood what they were holding. It's a game where the impatient give up their money to the patient and those that know what's going on. That Richard Hart said that himself in his documentary. So it's and it's not something that necessarily we need a benevolent leader or anything, but we do need the infrastructure. Like we have to have the true decentralized infrastructure, and there's only one place in the world that's going on right now. And so I think that's why it's so exciting to be getting into these assets right now at such a low price. Because, for instance, I was able to get into BFF at $90 price of a token price because of Zach's call. So at $90, a small entry is now serving a great purpose. And knowing that this tokenomics is set up very similar to something new that's coming out, I know we're looking at something very big in the possible next 6 months coming up. And so then that may be something that you could strategize about rolling into something that's going to pay you 10% over time. But I just think that there's so many ways in the space, like, and people don't like it, but the truth is this market is going to be a meme coin market. And that's where a lot of the initial liquidity is going to flow in from Bitcoin. There's already side chains being built for Bitcoin. You got Stacks, Layer 2. That's where the money's going. That's where the attention and attraction's going. It's not going to, TradFi lost out on this. It's going to go to the kids that are buying this stuff on their phones and that have the access to it. And, that's where the money's going to pump in. And I know for a fact, because of the way Pulsechain is set up, that money is going to be incentivized to move into the chain. So really, understanding this chain and this ecosystem and then preparing yourself is also another vehicle to do something astronomical with your money. So I like those points, but those are just my thoughts. I had a couple notes I had written down.
I agree with everything you said. I agree with everything you said right there. I'm just trying to give a little context here and something for everybody to think about and to build toward. Because when I came into this space, and even in my own personal life, I never had anybody talk to me about how to protect my stuff. I wasn't even aware of it, right? I didn't know any of these things. And I understand the importance of memes. I understand that people here maybe aren't in this position. But if you start doing the research now, potentially in a year, you're going to be there. And then how do you protect your stuff, right? So it's just a matter. I'm in a position where I can just share information. I don't have anything to shield. I don't have a site. I'm not even a good follow. I just repost Elon shit memes, right? Like I just put things up that I find that are funny. But I do feel like if you're here now, you're inquisitive enough and you're smart enough, you're going to come into a lot of money. And you'll eventually be in a position where you can protect it, right? That's the only point I'm trying to get across. And the memes are going to lead this thing. I agree. Like, that's how all the money's going to come. And I think that's the value of Atropa. It's going to take all of that meme stuff and wash that liquidity through the entirety of the Atropa system, and it's going to pull the whole thing up and build new floors, right? And like this new thing with what Maria did is, I don't know this, but is it possible that he was just offsetting some of the Bank X stuff by the liquidity burn? You know, there's different jets or propulsion mechanisms that he's going to be able to fire at his discretion. So either you trust him or you don't. At some point, you got to have faith, right? So that's how I view it. And that's why I look at this as long-term. Like Pulsechain is going to be an Ethereum killer. And the only thing that Ethereum bros can pay for, like they can pray for this, is that all of the ERC20s and the PRC20s reach parity. Otherwise, they're screwed. They are going to die because they don't have Atropa. They don't have the innovation. We're Ethereum 2.0, and everything else is, every other chain's garbage, right? Richard told you this when he was trying to establish Pulsechain. He was trying to fork Binance Smart Chain, and it didn't work. It was too buggy. And if you were following the Sam Bankman-Fried deal, they rolled back Solana on the transactions. Well, who the hell's going to put real money into a chain that can be rolled back? You're not doing it. So Ethereum is battle tested, and we are Ethereum on a fork, and we have all these improvements that they can't do. So Ethereum bros should pray that we reach parity or that chain is over.
Yeah, that's a very powerful statement. What do you guys think about that, about the parity narrative?
I've been all for it, since the beginning. I think that, what Maria has kind of taught us is that, it's kind of necessary for some of these tokens to reach that point, right? And I don't think it's necessary for every token to reach parity with their counterpart, but I do think that it's necessary for certain ones because it draws that attention.
Yeah, and even on the whole idea of the blockchain, the Verse lads, are you guys, you mentioned that you guys were across a few different blockchains, and you also said, Trey, that you were talking about Pulsechain being the best. So in your experience with the other blockchains, why do you think that, I mean, Bud's basically saying that Pulsechain is the best. What gives you that conviction that Pulsechain is ahead of the game compared to the other blockchains that you guys dabble with?
Let me say it as macro as I can. We've really got to be looking at what's been occurring on chain with Pt I. We need to look at its market cap right now. We need to consider it as a serious investment. It's not a meme coin. If you understand what's happening on chain, then you understand what's going on in Richard Hart's ecosystem. And so the most important thing is that we have a stable coin that we can move our assets out of at the end of this market, right? Everyone's going to have their exit strategies and do what they're going to do to protect their money. But none of this is going to work if we don't have a stable coin to go into. It doesn't matter. You're going to have to offload through Coinbase. You're going to have to off ramp. So this solution is not fixed. And if there's nothing stable for you to go into, then nothing in crypto matters altogether. So that's why I believe in Pulsechain, because I think true decentralization is coming, and a one-to-one backed crypto asset, a stable coin, is coming. And that's the most important narrative in all of cryptocurrency.
Yeah, I read a tweet from Frank Molina yesterday talking about the reason why he thinks there's been a lot of freezes on people with Coinbase. I think even the United States government, some of their assets were frozen. They couldn't take it off the exchange, is because they're basically on the brink of what did he say? Like they have liquidity problems. So in that context, how do you guys actually think? I'm all for the DAI stablecoin. I'm all for the pegging, or the pegging rather. But in the context of when it stabilizes, how, are we just going to have all this money that's floating insular within our ecosystem? How are people actually going to be able to take it on and off the ecosystem? How do you guys foresee something like this happening?
So we have to build things. So there is something in existence that can help you get money off the system, and it's called block blend. So you will be able to use something called block blend and then have like a credit card set up. So people are creating backdoors I'm sorry, I can't see your name. Is it Bub?
Bud with a D.
Bud. Okay, like Bud said, we're getting the chance to custody our own money. So these guys, they build something, but it's got a heavy fee, and it has a number max. So we're gonna have to build the solutions. And Richard said himself, someone's gonna have to build an off ramp. He said himself, someone's gonna have to build a stable coin. And then we've all seen the clip where he's talking about the possibility of forking MakerDAO onto Pulsechain. So I think this stuff is all in motion. I think this is part of the infrastructure that I'm talking about that's most important for real DeFi, because it's fake. Everything else is fake. Nothing else is tangible, and it's real. It's real now until it's not. Until you're part of the SBF scam, until you're part of the Silicon Valley Bank scam, until you can't get your money off Coinbase, then it becomes real. Or until your founder's under persecution by the SEC or going to prison, XYZ. This is how this game works. And so we've got to figure out ways we can get it off. If I got to do 10K transactions on Blockblend, because that's the only way, then I'm going to do whatever I possibly can, right? But I'm also going to use farms, and I'm going to earn yield with those large amounts, but I'm also going to convert and cash out as much as I possibly can through whatever other ramps that I have available to me and whatever I'm trying to cash out. So that's how I think of an exit strategy. But everything rolls into DAI before it hits its $100 price point. Everything rolls into Pulsechain before it goes and does a 10,000x. So it's a continual moving of these assets until it's moving it all the way into something that's stable for us, and then we can leave. And we have to build more things. That's just all there is to it.
Hey, so I've got a good one. Steven, go to this website. So Freedom777 told me about this a long time ago, but I asked him for it today to remind me. It's called Ultimo Pay, ULTIMO. And basically what it is like an offshore bank account that you can basically send your crypto, and they'll put it on like a debit card for you, but you can also use it like as an offshore bank account, right? So like, you can get a physical debit card. You can get like loans from them, like an actual bank.
This one, Zach, ultimopay.io.
Let me see. It should be like yellow when it comes up.
I think so. I think the logo was yellow. My computer's so it's training for the Olympics.
This is similar to Blockblend, but I don't think that there's any there's no limits as to how much you can put on the card because it's an offshore bank account.
Right.
And that's probably I have to look. Honestly, I'm gonna probably I'm gonna do a lot of research into that with like lawyers and accountants at that time, because that's gonna need a lot of help. There's gonna be a lot of things to try to navigate at that point with that I don't have the expertise to do alone. So that's definitely going to be part of the route. But I love seeing solutions like this. Thinking about offshore solutions is another thing. Thinking about possibility of buy-in citizenships in other countries, and then being able to take out for 0 to 5% gains taxes. There's lots of cool ways to do loopholes, and I like hearing things like Bud was saying earlier with these loopholes. So just part of trying to manage this type of money by yourself.
I wish Sonny was here, because I remember in our last conversation, and I'm such a novice compared to Sonny with liquidity providing, but he had talked about taking your assets on Pulsechain and then, God, I'm going to screw it up, and I apologize if I'm getting this wrong, Sonny, but to convert over into like a wrapped ETH product, and then sending that back across the bridge to Ethereum, and then exiting that way. There's ways through liquidity providing to extract value towards Ethereum. And Sonny's like, he's got it all figured out, man. I hate to even say it, but that was an option I heard Sonny speak on, is when you're looking to remove value and come into the real world. The one thing I would say, anything that you do just be sure everything you do is legal and pay your taxes. Don't do anything that you're going to regret, because everything can be tracked, right? So, but just do it in a way, like I said, where instead of taking a capital gain hit, you take a dividend hit. Like in the US, that matters. And so understand the tax code, understand the tax law, do what's beneficial for you. We're just playing by the games that the regulators write. Like, this is what Donald Trump said. I didn't write these rules. I'm just playing by the rules that y'all wrote. So do everything legal. Do not break laws. You will regret it, because they can track every transaction. So if any part of your plan says that this is shady, rethink it. There's a better way. Do everything that you can stand on. Be able to stand on your business, right? But just do the research. And Sonny's probably the best that I've ever heard speak. He talks over my head a lot, right? Like, I don't know. I need to spend more time in the pub.
Yeah, you're not the only one with Sonny. So I think also in Australia, if you're talking about something like PDI and you bought PDI, if you don't sell the asset that you've purchased, then there's no tax on that asset when it hits $1. If you just basically take out the yield, then you're getting taxed for something that is $1 and you're taking out. So I imagine that's the same principle as what you were talking about with the dividend. So I think those little things is like very important to understand, and really realizing what a gift this is. And I made this point the other day as well, where there's this kind of like narrative that, people, once it gets to $1, can just like sell out and go into all these other tokens. But they might really want to think about that, because maybe they're going to sell this and try and chase a pump here, but then they're going to get whacked with the tax for PDI that they bought for 0.0001 cent. They're going to get smashed on the tax. They're going to try and chase something maybe that they don't even get a 2x on. And is it going to be worth it? Is it going to be worth it? I really wonder. So there's going to be a lot of things to think about.
I put 90% of my PDI bag into liquidity providing when I saw a hole that needed filled. I'm trying to be part of the solution here, right? And I never intend to sell that. And it's a hefty bag, right?
Wow.
So I'm trying to provide liquidity, and I never want that asset to go away. Like, Doyle Brunson, the gambler, always said, you can shear a sheep as many times as you want, but you can only skin it once, right? So if you bought PDI at whatever price, buy it today and get a 50x on your money, on that, not on your money. That's the wrong way to say it. So your asset go up 50x to $1, right? Now, if you were to sell that asset, you got to pay capital gain on that. Don't sell it. Put that into liquidity providing, and then let that money work for you. Like if you put $1,000 in and it turns into $50,000, that's kicking off 16%, and you take your tax burden down, and you didn't skin your sheep. You're only shearing it because every year you're just taking a dividend distribution.
Yeah, and I mean, some of the opportunities, Zach, you were mentioning before we launched this stream, you're more than welcome to share the pool or not, but how much principal did you put into this particular liquidity pool, and how much have you been taking it, or how much has it been yielding on a daily basis recently?
Yes, I haven't taken any out of it, but the Treasury bill WPLS LP has been having a lot of volume lately, and it has not a lot of liquidity with PLS, right? So I have like 10% of the pool, and I think it's made like over $200 to $300 for the last few days in a row.
That's insane. That's absolutely insane. So, $200-$300 auto compounds. That's I mean, there's really not many places you can get that kind of yield.
You just got to think, like, so when later on, when the prices of everything of 10x, right? So that's $200 today is $2,000 in the future, right? And I do see both of these tokens not going to zero, right? So I have faith in PLS, I have faith in BFF, I have faith in Treasury bill. So that's the two that I have, is like BFF LP with PLS, and I have Treasury bill with PLS, just because they're both low hanging fruit, right? They both have like a lower LP and they had really high volume, so it seemed like a no brainer.
Is anyone, sorry, Zach, is anyone else having issues with hearing Zach? I hear him quite fine, but Eyal here is saying that he can't really, he's saying, please turn up your volume, but I hear you fine. Bud, Trey, you guys having issues hearing Zach? Or?
No, I hear him fine.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. Maybe it's one of your settings, Eyal. What's your experience with liquidity providing trade? Do you and Chris get into any of that, or do you personally get into any of that?
Yeah, we get in. I mean, a lot of our calls were 10 and 12 months ahead, to be honest with you, man. So we got into LPs early on a lot of cool P stables or P key PRC 20s. And yeah, P stables. So yeah, you know, and that's the goal, you know, LPs at the end. There's going to be a variety of things to do, even take loans out on the crypto. So you know, there's a lot of options, and that's what's so beautiful about DeFi is that, you know, if we don't have it, we can build it. It's cool.
How did you, I mean, yeah, like I mentioned earlier in the stream, you and Chris were really at the forefront of the Atropa ecosystem. How were you guys able to spot what was going on? Like how did you gravitate towards it in the first place?
So, to be honest, I think it just came from being in the bear market trenches every day when we saw a lot of people falling off. You know, people were big influencers in the market before, and DeFi summer came, and everybody got rich, and you had people blowing up on all over X and Twitter and having their accounts, and then people started falling off in the bear market, and we didn't have a choice because that's when we began. That's when we began our journey was into the beginning of 2020. So we had talked about crypto since, you know, end of 2019, 2020. And so just being in the trenches for so long, you hear things and you see things and people tell you things. And then with minds like Chris and I, we can't help but to investigate everything. And we showed up into some early on spaces and found out what was going on through some really great blockchain researchers. Zach was there. There was, you know, Nine Iron Capital, Mewtwo, Hodlnomics. There was a lot of guys putting in work. I remember, I think one of the big pinnacle moments for me was Hodlnomics debated another guy. I can't remember his name. I could look it up. I don't remember his name, but he debated a guy about it, and it was very intriguing. And I think from that moment, Chris and I had a discussion, and it was very, very early on, and we're just looking at things, and we were creating content at the time, and we immediately went into a studio and you know, produced some pretty good content on the matter. And I told Chris, I said, this is going to be one of the most important pieces of journalism we ever make. So congratulations. That's what I told him that day, because that was a long time ago. I'm getting close to a year and a half. So yeah, man, just being in the trenches every day, man, it sucks, you know, being a degenerate and having to participate in, you know, doggy coins and shit coins. But the truth is, man, this is the best way for our generation to make money and make wealth and to roll it over into the gain. So that's what we've been having to do, and really exciting times for us, man. So
it's awesome to hear. Like, it's really cool to hear, and it's good to like, I'm happy with the caliber of people that really got in early as well. When I look around and you know, you mentioned Hodlnomics, for example. I saw on my channel the video that I've got pinned. It came up and I was like, oh, you know, make sure you follow this guy. It was Hodlnomics, and I've got to know him more and more over time. It's just like, you know, really quality people that you know, they don't seem like, a lot of you guys don't seem like value extractors and you're going to rug the community. Or, I mean, of course, I'm sure you're going to take profits at some point. Everybody's going to do that, but it seems like you're more interested in like what DeFi is and how we can make the world a better place as well through our impact on it, and what we can do with this new blockchain that we have with Pulsechain. So it's really cool to see the kind of caliber of people that we have in this ecosystem, in the Atropa ecosystem. And I think that that's something that I've really loved from day one. So, I mean, every community has its ups and downs and degens, and but the fact that there seems to be a different mindset that hovers around the Atropa ecosystem, and because it's continuously expanding out and growing, even if you're someone like me who got in 6 months late, or someone now who gets in, if you got GBABY and got yourself a substantial position in GBABY, maybe we'll never catch up to people like yourself, but it gives us the opportunities to get those kinds of gains, and over time build out a position and stabilize that position into something worthwhile in the future. So it kind of caters to it's beautiful because it kind of caters towards the degen and also the long-term mindset at the same time.
I like that, man, and that's a great analysis. And I think one thing I want to leave you with is, you know, when all money is digital, whose money do you want to have? For me, I want to be in the most stable, the most secure environment, and to me, that's Pulsechain, man. That's what's being built out, and it's being put there right clearly in front of your eyes. And for he who has eyes, let him see, bro. Like for he who has ears, let him hear, bro. But other than that, if you can't see it or you can't hear it, maybe it's not for you. You know, this space is like newest of new digital money, cross-chain pairing, marketing through layer zero interoperability. You know, people are going to be providing incentive on base chain, pulling people to pulse chain. Like these are the types of ideas that are swirling around and swirling about. So this thing is bigger than you could ever imagine it. And when interoperability comes in from things like we already seen Titan X building an X28 chain, an interoperable chain, you're going to see marketing strategies that you've never seen before in your life. And you're going to be like, wow, that was crazy how they use technology to pull me in, how they use them to pull me over. So we're here. We're in the digital currency age. What digital currency are you going to be holding?
I love
Hey guys, I got to step out. It's 9:30, so I got to go to bed in about a half hour. So I wanted to say goodbye.
No worries, Zach.
Take care,
Thank you for
Zach.
joining.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Take care, man. See you later. Yeah, while Zach's heading off as well, if anyone else wants to join in, more than welcome. The link is in the description. I want to ask you guys. So there's a bit of conversation around digital currency, asset building, wealth protection. One of the things around the Atropa ecosystem, which I'm still trying to kind of wrap my head around, is the nature in which the liquidity is expanding out, but it's kind of like fake liquidity is expanding out into more fake liquidity, which is expanding out into more fake liquidity. So how much of it is actually real liquidity? And have you guys thought about this in the context of obviously as you've been maybe creating tokens and providing liquidity, it's like, well, you've just invented liquidity out of nothing, but it's not actually there. And the whole Atropa ecosystem has that basically with the hundreds of tokens. Have you guys thought about this and the implications of that with what might happen in the bear market or just in the long-term prospects of Atropa?
I can't say that I'm even thinking that far ahead, man. To be honest with you, I've waited for this bull market for so long that I'm not thinking about the bear market at all. I know what these tokens are capable of, and you can see the LPing there on the chain. And you know, if he's actively going through and burning tokens as well, I mean, I feel like that's good faith. I feel like I said feel, you know, maybe this is my feelings, but I definitely think that there's some sort of collaboration going on with Maria and others, and there's timing and there's catalysts that have not occurred yet on Pulsechain. And so I think a lot of this has to do with timing and continuing to set out the foundation for what is going to be dysnomia. So I can't really say, bro, I'm not spending too much time looking at these things. You know, these are things that, you know, we put an LP in and then leave it, and like that's it, move on to the next thing. So I can't say I'm keeping up and following along with that.
You made a great point though about the burnt liquidities and burnt tokens though. So when you're basically inventing this new token, putting it in liquidity, then you invent all this liquidity that gets created with this. But then if you, I mean, what we would have seen with, for example, have I still got it up here? I'll bring the screen back up. So what are we going to call this? So this is an so we'll call it hooks. But it doesn't really sound good, hook. So people have been calling it the dysnomia or the Atropa hex. So, you know, this is real liquidity that's flowing into the system, and then bang, gets dumped down, and then he started burning the liquidity. So it's like there was all this fake liquidity that got converted into real liquidity up here. So you create the token, you create these liquidity pools, and there's fake liquidity, which turns into real liquidity. It gets sold down and then gets burnt. So it's almost like,
yeah,
I'm sure it's even worked out.
Hyperinflates the price of the token, and this is the same concept as Titan X. You have hyperdeflation and then a hyperinflation phase. So He's just doing it all in one right there. And so this is DeFi for you. You can add when you add burn mechanisms into these types of things, and then market makers are coming in, like Wintermute will be coming on top of Pulsechain. All of these market makers are going to be coming in and running these charts. It's not really even a matter of if human beings are going to come in and buy these tokens up. Robots are going to buy them. Wall Street's going to have their robots in here if for nothing for the yield. So this is going to happen one way or the other if people believe in these liquidity pools or not. This is just designed to go up with the price of Pt I. So we're going to see all this stuff rise with Hart's Law together, and it's going to be an unstoppable force. It's going to be one of the most extravagant times anyone's ever seen in cryptocurrency. No one's going to be able to take their eyes off of it, because if you go and look on Dex Screener right now, you'll go see Solana. Everything's paired up to Solana. You go see Binance. Everything's paired up to BNB. You go look at every chain, base chain. Everything's paired up to Wrapped ETH. You go look at Pulsechain. Everything is paired up to something different. It's all about the LP webs on Pulsechain. So that's what I see in the Atropa ecosystem, and I know that that's going to rise with that Pt I pegging. So that's why I say, when I go back to the stablecoin is the only thing that matters, and that's the only reason why Atropa exists in the first place, is because it's to support the pegging.
Yeah, I mean, there's some good points there, and again, maybe I overthink these things because I'm always trying to protect people that are listening and protect myself as well. But if everything is rising up with Pt I, and I have all this Atropa or all this teddy bear or whatever, and it's all rising up with Pt I, then in some kind of a way, then it kind of looks like there's all this liquidity there, but it's the same as Hex, where it's all just like an illusion. I mean, it can all just come down very, very fast. I feel like still, from what I'm seeing, that
you have to understand how the maker collateralization works. And so when you understand how the P maker vaults become collateralized through flash loan arbitrage, then everything begins to make sense. You'll realize that Pt I and all the sacrifice funds and all that money has become an infinite money printer. And that's what's going to keep the system pegged. That's really the easiest way to put it. And it's something that if you go look at Decentralized Me's video, you'll be able to see this broken down. And that's what Richard is creating. That's what's going to make him the star. That's what's going to make him what he calls the king of crypto, sitting on the coin throne in his movie, bro. We got to pay attention to the large signs as well. The dude's got a movie out. Who else has got a movie? Who else is getting sued by the SEC and winning with Elon Musk's lawyers? You couldn't ask for better narratives, bro. Elon Musk has been saying what? The most entertaining outcome is the most likely. Look, guys, if you don't think that Richard Hart has been in the ears of the White House and he's been helping CZ while he's in jail, you're crazy, bro. This guy is one of the most capable human beings on the planet, bro. And this is just, all I know is that he is playing chess games far beyond what any of us can even think about, bro. He's been in this game too long, and he's a systems thinker, and he understood at a very early time, okay, Bitcoin is flawed. Let's fix it. And we're going to see some crazy things happen in this market because of this man's ingenuity.
Awesome comments, man. Yep, I agree with a lot of everything that you just said there. So, Bud, I wonder if you have an answer to the question, or if you want to comment on anything Trey just said.
Yeah, I would. The way I view things, I'm just like with this chart that you have up here. I want to give that time. Was it a rub? Nah, I don't think so. Let's see how that burnt liquidity plays in over time with Hex on ETH, right? Let's see how this helps support the Hex on ETH price. So I'm not real concerned with it. Like, sometimes you can miss the forest for the trees, right? Burnt liquidity is a big thing. And just like you said, I believe that this is going to be, Richard said this when he said, all you VCs who didn't get in, we don't need you. We don't even want you. Okay, he's right. Richard's going to build a walled garden. This is going to be a self-contained ecosystem. Okay, and if you understand liquidity flows, this is my perception. Like, this is my truth, doesn't mean it's the truth, but this is how I look at it. Okay, so as Teddy Bear runs, you said this earlier, memes are important. I agree, 100%. This new generation of investors, memes are the biggest thing. But as Teddy Bear runs, and then you have the R-bots come in, that's money that's going to be taken from Teddy Bear, and it's going to be harder and harder over time for Teddy Bear to accelerate because it's going to have more economic mass, right? And that money that those R-bots are kicking through the rest of the liquidity pools is going to start to elevate the rest of the system, which is going to stabilize that system. And so as people come in to speculate, I don't care, pick it, like P-Dye's got a hell of a narrative right now, right? So if people come in and start throwing money at P-Dye, well, P-Dye's bonded to a lot of things. So P-Dye's not just going to run up on its own. It's going to disperse. Like, there's this, everything in the universe is waves. And so when money comes in, then it's just going to wave through the rest of the Atropa system, and it's going to rise, and it's going to go up and down. And over time, it's like a butterfly taking off, right? And it's just going to be more of these waves up and up and up until it gets higher. And then it's going to stabilize. And you're going to build a healthy chart. Like, my personal belief is we're not going to see the MakerDAO collateralized until the market gets it there. I think.
Well, I mean, we shouldn't act prematurely. Everything's going to be based on the price of Bitcoin and Ethereum, and we're just not there yet. We want to be there, but we got to let these things run and take their time. And Ethereum, in my opinion, I know you said, Pulse is the ETH killer, but, I think ETH with sharding and, the narrative with all of the different L2s and VCs that are built on top of ETH, I don't think ETH is going anywhere. I think ETH is the chosen one. And like you said, even so, you could move your LP back through ETH. We got to have ETH to move the LP back through. So, I don't think ETH is going anywhere. Well,
if ETH introduces sharding, we'll bring it to Pulsechain. There's nothing they can do that we won't do too. Well, anytime they do something to reduce gas fees, it's coming down here too, right? So there's nothing that ETH can do to protect itself. Everything they do, this is a vampire attack. So when they introduce sharding, ZK snarks, whatever it may be, the devs on Pulsechain can take those EIPs and fork that into the Pulsechain protocol. Will always be cheaper, regardless. Now, you can't fit all the economic mass in the world on one chain. So if you look at this and transpose this against traditional finance, you have the NASDAQ, you have the Dow Jones, right? You have the Russell. Think of those as blockchains, right? These things run independently. So ETH might be your blue chip. And then you're going to have the NASDAQ might be Pulsechain. And then when we get to a point where we reach parity with ERC20s and PRC20s, what chain are you going to fork to create more horizontal integration? Richard has spoke about this. You can only sell so many hamburgers in a stand. So build another damn hamburger stand. Well, what are you going to fork? Which one's better? You're going to fork Pulsechain.
I know, but why are people still building on ETH right now? They have the opportunity to build on Pulsechain. It's just always going to be a market for both. And there, the Pulsechain is like where the real degens are, like some of the smartest people in cryptocurrency. Like ETH is name brand, and like I said at the beginning of this show, like I'm cross-chain agnostic. I'm always playing the devil's advocate, so it's never anything personal. But yeah, I like Pulse for what it is. I definitely think it can become anything and even more. And I hope it does, because, that's where I love to play.
Well, 7 years ago, all of the degens were in ETH.
Right.
Because it was all Bitcoin. And then the degens went to ETH. Now the degens are here. In 7 years, it's going to be a new chain, but it will be cheaper because the price of Pulse is going to rise. But you've got to have that blockchain, that new blockchain. Why Pulsechain is so great is because it's so cheap, and you can build here and you can innovate here, and then you're going to see economic mass bring this thing up, and then there's going to be something new. Just like you said, man, the level of exponential growth is beyond comprehension, right? Like, I'm starting to think of when the original question Stephen asked is, where do you see it going? I see parity in the ERC20s, and I see in time if whatever you have on Pulsechain, and Richard said this too, when Pulsechain gets too full, I'll just fork it again. And then you're going to have all the assets here, all the work you've done here is going to transfer over to the next one, right? We have this model. We are on the cutting edge of finance, right? So build your systems here. Now, I mean, I don't even know the answer to this. I don't know if anybody does because it's not complete. But how does Atropa go to the next chain? How does the liquidity movement? Man, I'm talking well out in front of my skis. I don't know. But that's where I'm allowing my mind to go, right? Like when I'm looking at PDI, I value it at $1 already. Okay, I don't look at it in USD prices.
Same. Just on, you guys were talking about when Ethereum possibly brings out sharding, how that would, someone's asked a question here, Craig's asked a question here about how that could work on Pulsechain to make it better. I don't know how familiar you guys are with the mechanics of sharding, but.
Well, from my understanding, any improvement that's done on Ethereum, because you can't introduce, whatever they introduce, since we're a fork of Ethereum, right? We can implement any EIP onto Pulsechain. Whatever they do there to reduce fees, we can do here. So when they put that into the GitHub, then the Pulsechain devs can grab it and they can inspect it and they can put it into the Pulsechain code, and we can be up and running. There's nothing they can do to get cheaper than us, right? So now if Richard had forked Binance Smart Chain, and I think that was the delay. He wanted to do that. That was the original intention of Pulsechain, and his devs told him, and he told us, this can't be done. This thing requires centralization. You have to have somebody stand up and fix bugs all the time. That's why he transitioned. And Richard has a history of transition. Like I watched Richard when he used to shill his link for BitMEX, and I watched his earliest content when Richard was saying, if you're not trading with leverage, you shouldn't be trading. That's the exact opposite of what Richard says today.
Wow.
Right? I saw it. I saw him say it, man. Watch his speech in Malta. At the very end, he shills his link for leverage trading on BitMEX. But that's what Richard came from. Richard made a lot of money. Listen to the history of how Richard made money, right? It was through referral links. He did that. But Richard evolved over time, right? So this is where he is today. He's in a better place. He's improved himself. He's improved a lot of things. He learned a lot with Hex. Also, like with Hex, man, I think one of the biggest misses on Hex is the T-share. I don't think people appreciate it enough, right?
Yeah. Agreed.
The very first thing you should do for yourself is build yourself a T-share staking ladder, right? And I'll just say for me, like I've evolved as a human. Okay. My hierarchical structure has changed over time. When I was a young man, I wanted the aesthetics. Like I wanted the fancy things. I wanted to show off stuff. Right. But at the point in my life I am now, what's important to me is taking care of my family. Now, what the T-share does is when I die, right, I continue to work for my family for 15 years after my death. right? They're going to get income from me for 15 years. That's incredibly important to me. And if I teach my kids the right way to do it, then they can use those T-shares to continue to generate perpetual wealth, right? So like this little thing right here, man, this is a PhD in your pocket. If you're not using Grok, like you're missing it, man. Just start asking Grok questions about T-shares. Like, what do you expect the average payout per day to be in 15 years? Right? It could be, I've had Grok tell me, by the way I asked it questions, it could be as high as 490. It could be an average of 190. It doesn't know because it's based on market conditions, right? And then what's the price of Hex in 15 years? And if you only have one T-share, and it's going to kick off at today's price, like one T-share, I don't know, it's like maybe, I don't know, like what is it? Say it kicked off 500,000 Hex. Well, if that's $10, that's a $5 million deal, right? Mm-hmm. So those T-shares get more expensive in Hex terms over time, and the value of Hex is going to rise. So if you are building yourself a staking ladder and every single year recycling that, then you're building this income machine, right? That's what the T-share is. And if you don't have it, man, like, and listen, I'm invested in Hex. Like I never sold anything on either chain. I've got 15-year ladders on both chains, right? And as they've come due in the bear market, I would recycle them and put it all back in. What's the point of cashing it out? I didn't need it. We'll just wait till later, right? So that's the value, right? And appreciate like what Richard has done and what he has spoken about taking care of your future self. And understand that your hierarchical structure of needs is going to change over time. And are you planning for that? If you go buy a fancy car to show off, what do you get? Like, okay, you got a fancy car. Do you think people are going to like you for that? Your success doesn't represent your hard work to other people. To other people, it only represents their failure, and they will resent you for it anyway. The last thing you want to do is ever present yourself as having success and wealth. You'll be resented for it, right? So put your money to work and understand over time that what you value is going to shift.
Yeah, I love that. So
yeah, man, but I gotta sign off shortly. But yeah, just quickly on the sharding thing. I mean, sharding is like basically taking the network and dividing it into mini blockchains and making the network having faster transaction processing speed. So that may be beneficial to Pulsechain in the future. But like you said, that technology is not completely done yet, or it's being gate kept at this point in time. I don't know. Like looked like the ETH price was being suppressed for quite some time. But yeah, I definitely agree with you on the T-shares thing, man. T-shares is a secret sauce of Hex, no doubt. It's a awesome first blockchain CD, man. So love Hex. Super cool thing. And I really appreciate you for having me on today, Steven. And I hate that I have to sign off. Wish I could stay longer, but it's also nice to Bud. And
before you jump off, man, do you mind if you just answer this one question here? So what's I'll apply this to you. So what's your elevator pitch on Atropa?
Man, look. At this point, dude, I've been in this ecosystem so long that my elevator pitch is one, what it always is. Do your own research, man. I shouldn't have to get the truth is I shouldn't have to give you an elevator pitch on a crypto. You should be itching to buy a certain crypto when you buy it because you have that much conviction about what you're purchasing. You have that much knowledge. You have that many positive trading indicators. Look, man, I do my trading based on TA, based on facts, based on what I'm knowing. So that's why I make trades and I win. So I don't need someone else to feed something to me. I have to go look into it for myself. For me, here's my elevator pitch to you. At the Verse, we've been talking about Atropa for a long time. If you go to our channel, you'll see we got a really long track record of just making awesome calls in cryptocurrency, particularly in the Richard Hart ecosystem, 100Xs, 5,000Xs, all kinds of cool stuff. So I think Atropa, I give it the thumbs up from the Verse. Yep, the ecosystem. But I also see exactly what happened yesterday. Somebody didn't know there was a mintable token, and you got wrecked. And you got to know what you're doing. You're playing with fire when you're clicking buttons, but you have to keep clicking buttons until you have a chef. Thanks, guys. Y'all have a good night.
Thanks a lot, Trey. Nice to meet you, man. You have a good day, or a good night, rather.
You too. Thanks.
What about for yourself, Bud? What's your elevator pitch for Atropa?
Well, again, I mean, you got to do your own research. I agree with that. I would, if I was going to try to be as concise as I could, I would tell people it's the future of decentralized banking. That's how I see it. And, like I said in the last time I was on, Eric Bethel, the former head of the World Bank, said that the future of finance is sufficiently decentralized blockchains. And you have an opportunity now to participate at the ground level. So I would advise you to learn as much as you could, to find the right people. And I've heard you say this. There was a guy, I used to listen to Raoul Pal a lot. In his exponential age thesis, I think that's extremely valuable. And I think everybody should listen to the exponential
100%.
age thesis.
It's brilliant.
Yes. But what I don't like about Raoul is he's so heavy into Solana because he's so heavily invested. And I've reached a point where, I guess the metaphor for it is, if I gave you a great big bowl of sangria punch, right? And it was the best punch you ever had, and you have a glass of it. Well, how is it? That's great. Okay. Now, if I put one piece of horse shit in it, just one, are you still going to drink it? 95% of it's good. 5 of it's shit. I think I'm going to pass. So when I discover with people, I got a lot of value out of his thesis. But if I continue to stay there, I'm going to be misled. And that's my own opinion because of his investments, right? So, I've heard you say something similar to that, not use that metaphor, but I think it's really, really important that when you discover that 5%, move on. And listen to people that are trying to be intellectually honest and admit mistakes. A lot of people got sideways about some of that post with 9 Iron Capital and Decentralized Me, but I don't think any of that was ill-intentioned. I think those guys are honestly trying as hard as they can. And when they made a mistake, they just come out and said, we made a mistake. Well, that's fine. Like, we're all here learning. We're all here trying. That there was no misincentive in anything that they did, right? So I would just, when you recognize somebody for what they are and their incentives guide them away from the right path, just quit listening. This thing is so hard. You just keeping up with Atropa, man. This is a job. Like, trying to learn it.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. Yeah. Sonny, is your microphone working? So Sonny just joined. So.
Oh no, you tell me.
Yes, it is.
All right, technology at its finest.
What's going on, man?
Dug out the old backup computer so I could say hi. How you guys doing?
Doing great, Sonny. How are you?
Very well.
Also doing great. Yeah. Anything that you wanted to add to the conversation or from what Bud has just mentioned there, Sonny?
Yeah, I kind of was working on the audio there for a minute, so I wasn't really able to catch up. But you know, I'll jump in. If you got any questions, feel free. I'll be around.
Cool.
Well, could I ask a question, Stephen?
Go ahead.
Sonny, you had talked about in the liquidity providing about how to, through liquidity providing, to exchange value into like wrapped ETH products, and then you were going back to ETH and selling those out. Could you elaborate more on that? I mean, because that could be used as a way to extract value without hurting the chain, if I'm understanding it correctly, and I might not be, but if you could expand on that topic a little.
Yeah, I mean, I think that basically just kind of sums up PRC, ERC. When you pair the two together, if you can make them the top pair, then when they dump the free airdrop, in theory, if they were smart, they'd leave and they'd dump their free copy for the real copy at whatever price it's at, and then take that off chain and go back and be happy. That'll do two things. One, it'll take those tokens that they got from the airdrop and put them into the LPs, giving them value. And two, when they switch it to the ETH product that they're going to take with them, they'll push the price of it up. And if they push the price of it up, as soon as they bridge out, somebody else is just going to bridge right back in and push it back to where it's supposed to be. This will go on for a long time, and all of this is just, it's every time you get a trade, that little 0.25% is going to LP. So it just keeps building the LP and leaving more of the tokens in the liquidity. And the more of these tokens that are in liquidity, the more tokens that are actually in that 0.25% trade. The difference between one token in liquidity and a cajillion, right? When you do a trade, 0.25%'s 0.25%, right? But total supply, right? So as people dump the one, if they go straight to Pulse, if they dump the copy, that'll dump the price of the from Ethereum one, and people will just buy it up because it's cheaper than what it really is. So that's gonna, in theory, if the top pair is from the fork copy, then that will come back up, right? It's just this teeter-totter back and forth. And at the end of that, once they dump about 50% or more of the tokens that are available to be dumped, you know, I kind of don't look at exchanges a whole lot, although there are exchanges actually dumping tokens right now, which is kind of funny. But once everyone dumps all their free tokens, right? Because they come over here, we're at parity, and everyone's like, oh, why would I hold this thing? It's worth this other thing. I'll just take this and get the real thing, right? Then all those tokens are in liquidity. And if the biggest pair is the real thing, then it'll follow its price action. But if legitimately all of the tokens were to get into liquidity and there's no one left to sell, which puts every PRC20 that has a Pulse pool and the main pool, it'll just ride Pulse. It'll actually be worth more than any of the real coins. And then it'll be, you know, this forked copy run by the community rather than the admin codes. Everything here will run into premium. And when you want to cash that out, you go over to the from ETH side and you bridge that out and cash it on their chart.
Got it.
The only ones that won't go past parity are the ones that are held back by a protocol that won't allow them to. It's delayed gratification after delayed gratification, right? You do it and you wait, you get to parity. Is that it? No. You hold even longer. You sit there in LP and all this volume starts going through. And whatever you put in now, parity's 100 or 50 or 1,000x away, you probably have about 20, 30% of your original in that value, right? So you're not going to catch full dollars on the way up on 100x, but your LP might go up 25x. And the amount of effort it would take to get that position at that time plus the volume between who knows when that is. Like, if it happens tomorrow, yeah, you're better holding anything that goes straight up. But for a long-term game, it's like after we hit parity, the game just started, then there's even more delayed gratification.
Okay. Yeah, I started bonding all of my ERC20 and PRC20s. The liquidity and the volume on those pairs is extremely low, but I know in time they'll go up. And I've even started bonding my liquid hex because I believe parity is certain. So I don't have any fear there to do it. And just like you said, the ability for that to compound through the liquidity pool, if I'm patient and I wait for parity, which I believe is coming, that liquidity pool is going to make the growth of that asset. I don't even know how I could measure it, but then when I get that, all that compounding is going. If I remove that out, then the way that that's viewed is for tax reasons would be a dividend instead of a capital gain anyway. So leave the principal in, let it work, take out a dividend, run that over to the ETH, crash their chart, or work on their side and not affect the Pulsechain side.
Basically, yeah. And if you, with a lot of these smaller ones, like the from ETH ones now, like I'm a top provider on I don't even know how many PRC ERCs, right? So if I go look and let's say one of them's 20, 30%, like if you go look at a lot of the actual stable coins, a lot of them are $1.20, $1.30, $1.40 right now, right? So I'll just go and take 10% of the LP out. So I get the real coin back that's now at $1.40, dump it back down to $1, put it into the other one, right? Into the forked copy. So now I have more of a forked copy that hopefully is still going to go up. And then perchance the from ETH one goes below its price, then I can use the fake one to go and pump it back up. And I just go back and forth through my own liquidity pair. That way you're not necessarily missing out on somebody else just coming in and dumping it, right? Although when they do that, they're just putting money on the bridge. And when you put money on the bridge, it's TVL.
Yeah, what is your opinion? So I had some assets sitting in my wallet, like Pulsechain Bitcoin and some Atropa. And so I just threw it in a liquidity pool. The volume was garbage. But between those two assets, I don't care which one I end up with. And I don't know if it was because of the liquidity that I put together, but if you were looking at a 24-hour chart, those things were synced as far as the 24-hour up and down. And I removed it. I just wanted to test it. I'm playing with liquidity right now to see what that does. But as I put like PWBTC against Atropa in a pool, and then when I just let that run, I can't, because I don't care which one I end up with, because I think they're both going to go through the moon. Like, I think I heard Maria say the top end target on Atropa at some point is like $45. So, and what could PWBTC go to? I don't know. Again, I don't care which one I have. I just want to compound that PLP, right? So, I guess the question is, when you provide liquidity, can you hinder the balance of the Atropa system by creating that or thickening pools in places that you shouldn't? Can you interfere with the rising of the Atropa system? Can you do harm, I guess?
No, you can't stop Atropa. So it's like when I look at Atropa, I don't see 200 different coins. Like I just see the ecosystem. It's all one thing. It's just living and breathing. And it's very much like our entire forked copy, right? It all has to be in harmony or it just doesn't work. And watching Maria build all this and go through audits and change things around, like you can go and look at a lot of these coins, and you can look at like their total value and then go put it in your swap versus another one and just press like 1111111, and you'll see the other one's going to be 22222 or 33333, or like they're all very, very much in tune with each other, and right where the math in James's head has them placed. And adding new things is all part of it, right? Like a treasury bill in real life mints money, equally taking from all, right? So when you mint, you just inflate, you kill everything else that's attached to it, in the real world. And then you use that to save things that are failing or that you need to put other economic energy into, right? So when you look at the LPs, when like impermanent loss, great, it is what it is. If you put something in LP and somebody else holds 2 coins and they get 10x and you only get 20x, nobody lost, right? Your gains weren't as big, and they're playing like it's 2 different games. If you want to play impermanent loss, like cool, play that game, but it just doesn't exist here. And with things like if you look at forked DAI and forked Bitcoin, they run together fairly much. It is the same chart, and that reflects it is the same chart as Atropa, because Atropa is DAI, right? Like
That's what I was saying.
every single coin within it is some form of DAI or WBTC. And if you look at DAI and BTC, like we've got a really big pairing there as well. And the WBTC pairing is pretty good as long as our stable and DAI, like it's actually starting to correlate. And when people aren't trading the chart of PDAI, you will see Bitcoin. Like right now we have a lot of sell pressure because it's the holidays and people are cashing out. It's just no one's going to be buying. It's not in the cards right now, But when it's just quiet and there's not much volume, there's just going, you can look at the PDAI chart and you can see the real world Bitcoin chart.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was noticing. And since I've been doing liquidity providing, but I'm trying to expand my knowledge, and the last thing I want to do is interfere. I want to add value. I don't want to be a net negative on anything. So I wasn't trying to establish new pools. I was just participating in pools. And it's just like you said, it's ratios. And those ratios, there's a little bit of volatility in that ratio, but it balances. So the percentage of, just like I said on the Atropa PWBTC pair, if I look at it on a daily, it's going to fluctuate, but it's just going to work like this, and over time, it's just going to do this. Is how I'm seeing it, and I just wanted to make sure that when I start putting more and more economic mass into it, I just didn't want to do it because of not knowing where I could make it harder for things to run. I just, if I'm going to do something, I want to do it the right way, and I want to be a benefit to the system and add value.
Yeah, I think an LP anywhere is benefiting, and our entire chain would not exist without it. Like it's what we look at. How it's TVL, like it's volume, and we can't do that without the liquidity to give them to do volume on. Our volume right now is mostly arbitrage bots, and that's a whole, like that's just every chain. That's just normal. Like when Jared from Subway comes over here, like our volume's gonna spike even more, right? Like we don't even have decent front run bots here. We're all very lucky to be where we are right now, and that's a tangent, right? But as far as the LPs go, yeah, if you don't care which one you end up with, that's the best way to LP, especially for someone that just wants to do it long term. Pick 2 assets that you're gung ho on, and never go all in, but like maybe put 1% of your supply in for a couple of weeks and just see how it works. And if you like it, put 5% in, maybe put half, but like don't the key to the LPs is you can start something, and if you just do math in your head and watch it, it doesn't matter if you put $1 in or $1 million, right? It's the same percentage. And I mean, $1 does matter on a dollar pool, right? But if you're joining another pool or one of these Atropa pools, like one of my personal faves, and it's, you know, 2 assets that I really don't care. I know which one I'm going to end up with. I'm going to end up with Pulse. It's Teddy and Pulse. And what my initials into that pool were, there's days where I make well, we've only hit a couple million volume a couple times here where I've owned the majority of that pool, but I, you know, basically every like 10 million that goes through there, I was making my initials back in auto compounding. So like when this chain does a 10x and Teddy's done another 100x, I'm going to be making, you know, who knows how much volume is going to go through there, but to get that piece of the pie is going to cost someone ridiculous to enter it. But you can enter these positions now where they're much, much lower and just ride the value up.
Right. I don't think most people have a really great understanding of the power of compounding math and like the daily compound, like the way that your LP compounds. I've watched my positions go from like some pools I was 12% of the pool to see it go to 14%, and it moved back down. But the over time, like in a year or two, like let's say that the value when that, like say in a year we're at a place where PDI is worth $1. Let's say I have $10 million in a pool and there was no compounding to it. But if you look at the math on something that does even like a 20% pool, you know, you would say, well, that's an extra $2 million, but that's not it. Because of its daily ratcheting up effect, it could be 2.5 or 3.5, depends on volume, right? So that's the biggest miss. And the longer I leave my position in, like, you're not catching me. Like, if you're not doing it now and you're not looking long term, that is the biggest miss in this space to me. Like, this is liquidity providing is how you become a future whale. That's just how I'm viewing it.
100%. And if you start to realize how stable coins work, right, all they do is mint both sides and throw them in the LP for something else. Like, those coins just end up in LP. You know, DAI started with, I don't know how many, there's billions of them now. I don't know how many are in LP, but like, you know, Pulsechain was the same way. These all started out in thin air and ended up in an LP. And the more people that sell the airdrops, be it Pulse, Pulse X, a forked copy, a minted coin that comes in through the bridge and becomes a from ETH coin that is minted and then put into an LP, like, the LP providers just eat and eat and eat. And it's delayed gratification. Like, you know, when you talk dollars, like, I have pools that I started with $10 that are 10 grand and just churning volume now, right? You know, may have only been 5 coins available for purchase at the time, right? So you buy them, you put them in liquidity, you buy them, you put them in liquidity, you leverage this liquidity over and over and over, and you can handle a little bit more sells, and you're just building liquidity. That's all it's about, right? No one can cash out their fake coins if there's no liquidity to do it. And if you provide your own, eventually all of your fake coins will just become real money.
Yeah. Thanks for answering my questions.
Yeah, of course.
I didn't realize how insanely good the Teddy Bear LP was. It's not like a lot of the other LPs will have these kind of spikes here and a spike here and a spike here. This is this is pretty consistently ridiculous.
So early
wow.
on, when Teddy first launched, like looking at it, it's just Shiba Inu, same supply. The only thing the difference is, like, when you start with like a Shiba Inu or a Pepe, right? It's some meme, it's some joke. Somebody puts 1 ETH in the lick pool and they just run at it, right? That's not how this worked, right? Like, this started and Teddy was a little bit different because it was 50% Atropa, and not just actual Atropa, but like Atropa ecosystem coins. It was 50% with, you know, 100 different liquidities, and then 50% Pulse. So like it had the ability to run on its own, but it also had like the 50 valve engine running underneath it, and it didn't need anybody. No one could have traded this ever, and it would obviously not be where it's at, right? Like we got the top dogs calling it, and everyone in it, like, you know, you'd be silly not to be in this. This is going to outperform every meme coin ever, right? But like with or without us, it's just going to do that, just like everything on Pulsechain.
Yeah, that's been one of my big realizations about this whole ecosystem as well. I had forgotten that it was the same supplier as Shiba Inu. So yeah, there you go. He really thought about this when he created it as well. I imagine. I don't suspect that that's a coincidence.
So imagine this thing still has, I don't know how much in LP, right? But like at 100 million, which we're at now, but let's say back, you know, a couple weeks ago, we are still at 10, 20 million. You know, to have 10 or 20 million market cap and legitimately still have like 10 or 15 million in LP is pretty insane. And we've definitely blown it out the water now. We'll have less liquidity than market cap, but like all of these coins in the Atropa ecosystem at one point in time had more market cap and liquidity, and because Maria bought all of them and put them back into liquidity and continues to do so every single day. Well, not every day, obviously, but like all of these things are buying these coins out of pools where they already are and then adding them back into another pool and burning it, doing it again over and over and over.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. So you were mentioning in the pub to, I don't know if you wanted to talk about this at all. So you were talking about the LP setups. You were saying to talk about the LP setups of stay of proceedings.
Pull it up, put it on the screen.
All right.
Start with a chart if you want, because people like charts, right?
Yep. So I got the chart up here ready to go. I set it all up.
Okay, let me zoom in. All right, so
thanks for the
34,000.
Sorry, what was that, Sonny?
I was gonna say 34,000 a coin. Most people look at that, they won't buy it, right? It's way past. It's gone up. It's done a thing. Normal people look at this, they just like, nope, don't want in, right? So any coin that you get into, the first thing you want to look at is how much is actually in LP and where is that LP. Now, obviously, the more that's there and the more it's burned, the better the coin is, right? The less people can actually sell it, the more chance you have at potential gains, right? So when they say dollar signs and market capture are fake and they're a joke, right? Like I would look at this chart as a trader and I would move on to the next one. But take the contract address and throw it in the scanner and look at the holders list.
Holders list. So I'll zoom out a little. Wow.
Tell me who can dump it. How much damage can they even do? What's their price impact? Like,
wow, look at this. So wow. So okay. Also, just for the sake of everybody else, like I mean, you can see instantly how much is in LP right here. 131 supply. I've also brought it up on this website, and 128. Shit. So basically, like that's 98 to 99% that's in LP, basically.
and what's you say the LP is worth there?
8.5 million
on a 4 million market cap. It's literally over collateralized. This is how you make coins that can go up without people, because there's more of the coin in LP, right? It's been leveraged over and over and over, and it just grows on volume because no one, the art bots aren't holding the coins. They're just passing through and leaving more in the LP, growing it forever. Right? This is the basis of A1A. This is why it performs well and does not need anybody. There's literally nobody in it, man. Like, this is the biggest lesson that everyone in Pulsechain has just absolutely missed. RH himself, you know why Pulse and Pulse X works? It's because people that didn't get it from the airdrop will buy it out of the liquidity and put it right back in for the farm. They're leveraging it The more you leverage it, the more you can handle the liquidation. What's the liquidation? Sellers. If you have 0 sellers, you have 0 liquidation. You just keep leveraging.
Oh man, wow.
So
I'm
while we're
almost
here, real quick, Coco, you're Lao, right? You're selling into your Lao, but you don't know why. The reason that you're selling into it, the reason I taught you to do it that way is because I want you to put those tokens into the LP. Now, if you just added all those tokens at launch, people would buy it. They'd be in your LP. They'd be in your personal character, right? Your bank. You don't want that. You don't want other people necessarily supporting your bank, right? So you sell it down, 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 down. It's anti-sniper. It's the same thing Maria does on 99% of these launches. It's what's going on in the Hex launch right now. You sell it down, you put it in LP. You sell it down, you put it in LP, right? It just wrecks anybody that gets into it. And then when you get to the bottom, when nobody looks at it, and when you're loud, they shouldn't be, then you can actually start buying it up yourself. And this token that we're looking at stay, it's the same thing now as allow, right? All the tokens are there. If you go buy one token, it's kind of like an IOU, right? You're saying, I'm going to put my money into this liquidity pool, right? So now it's got more liquidity in it, real money. It can do more APR, right? And I'm going to hold this IOU. Now, when I come back later, I'm going to return my IOU. And here, there's pretty good chances price go up, number go up. So you're going to get more back. But like, even if it went a little sideways, there's less price impact there from it growing. So when you go to sell it, you're going to get a little bit more. That's your returns on the IOU. Now, if you use that Lao as your own bank, every time you make $5 or $10 profit on a trade, you go buy a token, you buy a token, you buy a token. You just slowly put money into your own LPs, right? And then you're raising that up. And from outside of the allows, you don't actually have to do this with allow. You can make an LP, and that is a token, and then you can take that token, your LP token, and just pair it with other things that will grow it.
You just blew my mind, Sonny.
What's next? Let's keep going.
I don't know. You keep going, man. You lead the way. You're the GOAT. So I'm almost scared to say that it's clicked, because every time I feel like something's clicked, then I'm in the dark again. So I feel like it's clicked. What you said just made a lot of sense based on also what I was hearing about PTGC and this idea of like the value of the liquidity pools growing. Like this idea with stay of proceeding, that's like 99% of it is in liquidity, and that the value is just going to go up as the value of all that value of all of these assets go up. It's just going to drag up the chart, and it's going to drag up the token, and they're all in liquidity, so it's just going to keep going up forever as long as these all go up.
Well, that and the way that the webs are built now, right? In the background, there could be $1 million a day going through this pool, which would leave $2,200 in real assets just in traders' fees in the LP, right? So like, with no one ever trading this, if this just goes along in the background and does $1 million a day of volume, the LP is growing by $2,200 a day. So it's going to bubble out and sideways forever. It would still actually grow in value, and you have less price impact every time. Like it's exponential in growth. And if people don't buy this coin, like if they don't take those coins out of those LPs and own this token, then it's just an ETF of everything in it, right? Which it's Atropa, it's all DAI, it's all Pulsechain, it's all going up. So like, if people do want to ape it, yeah, someone could go buy a coin of that right now. It's going to cost them, what did we say, 34 grand? You know, weeks ago it was 1,000 or 2. Like, but everyone's looking for the next big thing and just aping all these things that are still launch. Like, it's still a fair launch. How long ago did that launch, man? Like,
Yeah, 26th of April. I don't even know what to say right now. I'm almost like I just want to jump off and start going down this rabbit hole. Oh, I want to start playing around with my Lao now. So, yeah, even the concept of putting it all in. Yeah, I mean, I understand that you were trying to emphasize that, and I guess there's just things that I just couldn't. Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, you always say this as well. So, and I've heard Somi talk about this as well. Like the people that overanalyze things and try to understand things too deeply, sometimes it doesn't actually serve you. Like just it's more simple than what we see it as. But you know, on that as well, there are people which I completely agree with. So I'm going to bring this comment up here. Where was it? Someone was saying that basically you talk like it's kindergarten, but it feels like a master's degree. And I can't remember where the comment is, but I was like, I totally agree with that. So,
it's the internet. You can listen to it again, right? Like, there's a basic learning, and you know, I've said it 100 times. And it's a video game. First, you got to learn how you like your swap, right? People need to understand what slippage is and auto routing, and then when you start to get into Atropa, you can see, oh, I'm auto routing through here. I'm getting a better deal, right? And then, you know, level 2, add an LP. Level 3, understand what it is. But like, you're not going to save the princess from the Koopa until like level 99, you know. And as much experience as I have in this now, and that's why I can talk on it, is because I've seen it, right? I physically watch these numbers, and they do. The exponential growth is like starting to snowball at the top of a mountain, and the mountain just never ends. And,
I think the part about it being exponential. So if we use this as an example. So obviously these are all the liquidity pools here. How does it become? How is it exponential math? So the value of is because the value of all of these is because they're all growing and they're all interconnected. So they're all growing.
You know, a year ago, let's say there was $10,000 in all of this LP, right? When you couldn't shove $1 million in volume a day through it, right? Now that we're up here, it's all still in LP. It's to some, you know, I'm sure some of these have been added, maybe even recently. I'm not 100%. I have to go look, right? But like, let's just say they've been like this the entire time. And you know, I use A1A for educational purposes. Like, A1A has been like this the entire time, right? And it's not until you take those tokens out of those LPs that you get any sort of price performance, right? This is literally just following everything it's paired to with zero price action. When people start buying it, it will start going up exponential. That's how crypto works, up an exponential, right? When people start buying it, the price will actually break free from these assets and go up. But in the LPs, now that this is this big and has $8 million in it, every $1 million in volume that goes through it, there's $2,200 left in that LP. And if no one's buying it, it's just leveraging it over and over and over and over and over, right? So if every day you put, and these are expensive tokens, right? This would be a lot, but let's just say for math's sake of conversation that every day you buy one of these tokens and you put it in LP, that means someone that's holding one of these tokens can now go and sell it, or half of it. I think it might be half the way the math works out, but like basically they could sell half of one and you've already levered, like you've already covered that sell, right? So it doesn't even matter that they sell it because you already bought and leveraged their sell, right? That's what we did with Halloween. We just kept leveraging it, just buying it out and throwing it in, buying it out, throwing it in, buying it out, throwing it in. I think Halloween probably still has more LP than market cap. And, you know, we've got, I mean, the contract has a lot of other ecosystem stuff. There's like 20 grand or 80 grand burned to the contract. We burned a few grand in Hex LP. And, you know, that's sitting at around an ATH, mostly still in LPs that are all allows and stuff.
So here's the Halloween. So 66K market cap. So yeah, just to confirm this for the sake of everybody that's, I mean, look at this beautiful looking chart. 3% hex LP. So E hex, P hex, LP you get for this token for anyone who likes and loves. Oh, here we go. Anyone who likes and loves hex. Let's have a look at what this is. So duplicate the tab. So we had a market cap of 66K. Now let's look at the liquidity here. There's still some pairs though where it's like so with some of these three new pairs, like Cunny, for example, when you looked at the like the liquidity pools, the thickest ones, even still, when it was a thick pool, you still had to sell like a small percentage because you would get such a big price impact. Do you know what determines that? Or maybe I was looking at it wrong.
If there's enough in there and the calculations in the swap are wrong, then it may be too small an amount. It may be something weird. It may be trying to auto route through a tiny pool.
Maybe I had the multi-hops on the auto router. So I mean, that's really actually quite good for people to understand as well. Like when you're trying to swap through some of these things, just quickly before I go back to the Halloween. So also, I mean, the Halloween was 86K liquidity and then 66K market cap. So yeah, there you go.
If you want, you
so
can
when
take
you swap
that Halloween contract address and put it in DBank and see all the holdings that have been burned to it.
Yeah. So can you? All right. So DBank. I don't think I've really ever used. Is it dbank.com?
Ooh, how do we not use DBank?
We'll soon find out. All right. And so I'll get the Halloween.
dbank.com.
Because somebody was asking this question before about how you can confirm. So there was a I think Carl Cruz on Twitter was saying, well, so when Maria was selling in the Atropa hex into Ethereum hex and then putting it in a liquidity pool and then burning the liquidity, was basically sending it to the treasury bill contract address. And so it can't actually be taken out of there. That's the same as sending it to a debt address, right?
It depends on the contract, right? So all of our LAOs, you can actually remove the assets from your LAO, right? So like Maria tricked everybody into sending things to a contract to burn them and then made contracts where you don't have to actually burn them. If you go in the pub, I just put a link for what you're looking for.
Okay. All right. Is this it anyway that I've just brought up? Let's have a look. Computer. RIP.
So, I don't believe that treasury bill can be taken off. I could easily be proven wrong, but when I looked at the contract and the functions, I didn't see anything like that.
That was what I understood as well. So there could be some sort of function on the contract of treasury bill where he could actually just take out the LP, the PLP rather, or the LP, same thing. That's what I sort of thought as well. So I'm glad I was sort of on the money. So, all right, what are we looking at here?
Real quick, we're touching on that though. Who cares? He can mint it. Like, he doesn't have to take any of the LP out. He just mints it and dumps all of it. You know, the math is either way.
Right. Yeah. Oh, that was in the context of the hex when he sold the Atropa hex into eHex, created a liquidity pool, then sent that PLP address, the PLP token to treasury bill. But even then, like you said, he can mint treasury bills. So, okay, what are we looking at here?
All right, so that's the Halloween contracts holdings. So they're essentially burned. The wallet is obviously a bunch of stuff that I've just sent to it. But if you scroll down to the LPs, so Halloween's one of its biggest pairs is the knife, right? Because the knife is the buy and burn, and that's 7K burned. Next is Pulsechain, because pair holidays together and make the first holiday coins that last more than 30 days and are annual. Die Hard got sent there because it got purchased with this coin. Free got sent there for the same. Go down, and Hex. So we have 3 of those Hex ones, right? The one that's just Hex, that one, that's our actual buy and burn. I think we sent 10% or 33% of Halloween to the Halloween contract address so that it would receive those rewards. So it's buying and burning Hex LP. And so far we burned $2,700, and that number just goes down in dollar signs all the time. So that was really a count the tokens one. One day when Hex goes back up, so will that dollar sign number.
Yeah.
So these are all the LPs that are just burned in this contract.
Oh, wow. So that's a huge amount. Wow, we're still
Right, if you look
going.
to the bottom there, a lot of those are LAOs, right? The pictures aren't showing. They might show on the Beehive on the liquidity pool. If you pull the Halloween contract, would it check that? Yeah. Well, yeah, the Halloween contract, I think on the liquidity pools will show.
On the liquidity pools Versal.app.
Yeah. Scroll down that one to the bottom, and you'll probably see our emojis. Yep. So that's all our allows.
420. Interesting. So some of these then are are you saying some of these are what's also here, the burnt ones?
Right. When you see a lot of the question marks, it's not showing because DBank doesn't like to show a lot of stuff. But when you go to the other one, you can see, all the emojis are people's LAOs and what they've added to.
Gotcha. Okay. And that was the when we first set it up, right? That was what was it, the $10 or the $15 or whatever it was, $50 that we sent?
Yeah, I think that one was 10.
So wow. So all this, okay, got you now. So all of that got burnt to the contract address of the Halloween. So now anyone that ever pulls this up can see all this liquidity that's burnt. I mean, that's tens of thousands of dollars right there. Well, yeah, tens of thousands of dollars. But someone was
87 showing, and then all those little red dots, because they're LAOs, they usually don't show value, right? So it's even more than that.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, because someone was asking me, someone, I won't, in case he doesn't want to be doxxed, but yeah, he was DMing me of like, okay, how do I actually make something that is attractive to communities to buy into? And this kind of a strategy is exactly it, where huge amounts of the liquidity is burnt, huge amounts of the token is in liquidity. So when it's burnt, it's even better because it's like, well, then the person who created it can never rug it because it's just burnt liquidity. They can never take it out. You'd have to verify all of that again, like, okay, what contract address is it connected to or whatever. But that's how you make things which can garner community trust.
Right. So I could have just sent those tokens to the dead address, and we actually did send some to the dead address, so that there's some burned hex LP over there too. But this way we can showcase and say, hey, this is what we've done as a community. Like, we've sent this here, we've burned this forever, and it will grow exponentially. This will be a multi-million-dollar wallet one day. And it's all just burned liquidity, right? And if you want, go on the pub. I just threw up the Treasury bills DBank, and you can go look and see what has been burned to the Treasury bill, right? And that's, it's just a way of showcasing and saying, this is what actually backs our Treasury bill right now.
DBank. So I've got to start using DBank more. There's like you said yesterday, there's all these different tools, and you kind of just, we just have to work with what we have, right? So you mix between liquidity pools, Versal,
put your wallet in there and go check your LPs, buddy. It's a whole different world.
Yeah, right. Okay. So, because I remember when I was first using DBank, it didn't show all the LPs for the Atropa tokens. That's why I was like, oh, yeah, okay, I'm not going to bother with DBank.
So their algorithm or whatever needs X amount of actual liquidity somewhere. And a lot of these tokens don't have, real liquidity to this still day, right? Like, a lot of the Pulse pools were with Atropa, like, I'm talking hundreds of them were mine until we hit the bottom. And when I, thought I was at, the local bottom for Pulse and the entire ecosystem, I pulled all my Pulse pairs because I wanted the Atropa tokens, right? And then I paired the Atropa tokens to themselves so that I would just get more of both of them as they traded and rode this whole thing up together. So a lot of these just don't even have Pulse pools because most people won't do that because, for permanent loss and stuff. Or so they think.
Okay. So here we go. Here's the one that Maria would have sent this morning. So your son is not happy in the chat. your disowned son. So, but yeah, I'd be interested in what your comment on this as well is, Sonny, because I was mentioning this earlier in the stream, and I put this question to Bud and Trey. What's like everything is kind of like a cut and a cut and a cut of the liquidity with the Atropa ecosystem. How do you visualize or see the real value of the liquidity within the Atropa ecosystem based on how all of this is actually playing out at the moment?
It's a locked placeholder. When Atropa first launched and put everything to DAI, James was gambling that everyone would eventually buy DAI and take the entire ecosystem with it, right? So any project that's built off of a forked copy that is larger than the forked copy being paired to the from ETH copy is just a leech on that particular project. And that includes my project, right? Like Die Hard has a 700K in burn liquidity with DDI. Like I don't know that there's $1 million in DAI at the moment. Maybe there is, probably not, but like there's 20, 30 projects that are just balls deep in it, right? So when we buy PDAI, we're not pushing up PDAI or bringing it closer to parity by pairing it to its actual asset. We're just pumping Atropa and everything else that's piggybacking off of it, right? Like the only reason that A1A is doing so well is because it's attached to all of these PRC20s, and the harmony that runs in the background keeps them at a parity, right? Like PWETH is Pulse, it's in all of the pools. If/when Pulse does its $1,000,000X, everything would be at parity. Even if it's never traded, the little shit coins that you got rugged on, you could literally go back and get your money out of, right? Well, they weren't worth anything originally, but the pools that did have more than one pair at the fork have more than one pair here, and they're arbing, and that arb is leaving tokens in their LPs. So like they are growing and are no longer $1,000,000X from parity, right? They're coming up with Pulsechain and doing the X's all by themselves.
Yeah, I mean, it still makes it an interesting. I mean, Almighty here. It's still something that crosses my mind. Like, yeah, how does everyone exit in the bear? But again, it's no different to any other crypto, really. I mean, the liquidity is so thin across all of crypto. The liquidity is so thin across the whole entire globe. So yeah, it is something to consider, and something that I often wonder about, and I just kind of think, well, yeah, I'm not too sure, to be honest. So yeah, DAI will get drained. So a lot of people have speculated on this. So, but thanks for that, Sonny. Thanks for showing us DBank. I'll definitely start to use this now. I'm going to add this tool to my belt, especially now that you can see all of this. This is really cool. So. Yeah, and this was a really good lesson. This one here, stay of proceedings. And I mean, the interesting thing about stay of proceedings, again, like Maria kind of signed off the Amsterdam talk about talking about stay of proceedings. I remember, so I think independence and stay of proceedings, that I think it was like a 1.5 or 2.5 or whatever it was length of time speech. And he kind of closed on this. So it was almost like, yeah, if you really want to get what's going on here, have a look into this. So when someone was asking me earlier, what's my elevator pitch for the Atropa ecosystem? Honestly, I don't really have one. But yeah, this is something that I'm actually really quite, I want to quickly get into my Loud tokens. So, and start exploring that now that I'm understanding it more. So even in GBABY and the No, I mean, it was so obvious when when I was looking at GBABY, it was so obvious, and it was called in the know, and I was just like, yeah, okay, he's selling it down, and you want to buy it at the bottom, and it will start to go up. And particularly because we just started doing it with the layer, it was like, oh, it was really easy to see, but just completely missed it. Completely missed it. The amount of, yeah, with the holdings with this, completely missed it. And still this, so this token Hex, there's still, I think he still owns like 75% of the supply. Same as, I think I have some of them here. So it's all these new tokens. So Genesis was one.
So
Where
going back to the Hex one real quick, if
Mhm.
the dev originally put 5% in supply, 5555 out of about 111, 1, I believe, right? So if 5% is in supply, if you buy a percentage of that and add to LP, when the dev dumps the rest of the supply, where does it go?
Into your LPs.
So let's say 5% of the supply goes in and I buy 10% of that. When the dev's done and dumps 90% into the LP, how much of the LP do I own? Still 10%. Except for instead of 555 coins, I now have 55,555. Like, when coins get minted out of thin air and dumped into LPs, you catch them in LPs, you don't buy charts. You wait until they're properly launched and all the tokens that are in LP. Like, from what I see on Hex, it looks like Maria's keeping it in that 4-ish million range, and I'm sure there's math to that somewhere. And maybe they sell some more, maybe they wait for it to go up and then knock it back down so they can keep adding the LP that they're trying to add, right? But like, people don't understand, you know, if a dev has 99% of the supply and is selling, you either don't want to buy it to catch a profit because you're going to get wrecked, or you add LP and you catch all the coins.
Gosh, you know, it was you know, it was sort of not in a way like, I mean, it's so what? There's going to be more opportunities, no problem. But literally, every new token that came out, I'd be like, okay, I'll buy into it and I'll just create the LP. So Genesis was one of them. But these ones, I was like, okay, I'm not gonna create the LP straight away. I'm just gonna try and see where it goes. And actually, I mean, yeah, like you said, if you put that into LP with the amount of volume that flowed through it, and especially say for this one, I mean, if you can get yourself like Stewie here, I'm just behind Stu, so there's obviously other projects here, but you know, I think these are our two Lao tokens. If you can get yourself a nice position at the start, like when he's dumping that, that's going to fill up our LPs. So this is the kind of game that's being played with the LAU tokens. So yeah, and all of these is really just opportunity now. So I think as we saw with Hex, 72% he still owns. I've got these a little bit all over the place. That was stay of proceedings. I had the other ones open, and then this is I think this is Genesis. There's 40.6%, and then there was a couple of others that got, I think, Gold Standard. That one was majority was in LP, so he'd put the majority of that in LP. And then what was the other one? Cunny. So I think Cunny was the same thing where it had like he owned like well over 50% of the supply. So yeah, there's good little things to keep in mind. And then again, I put this at the start, but I'm going to put this in the description. I definitely recommend like reading this a few times if you're really like considering getting into the Atropa ecosystem, especially before somebody asked. I'll put it again in the chat. Somebody asked, but I'll end up putting it in the description as well. Somebody asked, like, where's a good place to start? Well, you know, I think this is a bloody great place to start here. This particular tweet that I believe it's Mindfulness who runs this. So she does a lot of awesome stuff, a lot of awesome content for the Atropa ecosystem. So, yeah. Anything else that you guys want to talk about or share?
No, I don't have anything, Stephen. I just appreciate Sonny coming on. I just, this is beyond my knowledge. This was all great. Like, I'm going to look at providing liquidity into that. Understanding these laos is next on my to learn list. It's Well, there's a lot of value here, and thank you, Sonny, for helping us understand it.
So on that, Sonny, that's a question that I have in my mind. So with this, the total max supply 131. So then let's say, for example, you create a allow token and it starts off with the initial total max supply. You put 100% of that in liquidity, or is the way that you're thinking about it where you would mint all of your tokens and then put them all into liquidity straight away? I guess there's different ways you can play it.
The allows are a character in the dysnomia. They're meant to be a character in a game, right? Adding liquidity to them is, if you want to do it, go for it. The problem with just minting all of it and putting it in LP, or just putting in your initial mint all into LP, is that people will buy it, right? And it's currently something of zero worth. There's no reason to buy it, especially when the owner of it can mint it and sell it. So until there's actual gameplay and these characters have powers, all of these tokens are worthless, right? Now, once the game comes in, then if I own a percentage of your supply, I may have more power than you, right? And if I own your rods and your cones and I've LP'd them to mine, maybe I get more power than you, right? Maybe eventually I get enough power that I can go take the LPs off of your contract, right? Like, there's functions that are written in this code that some are not operable at the moment, some are private, some are public, some are a lot of things, right? But to interact with a contract that you don't understand and to put money into it is probably not a very sound financial advice, right? So if people want to launch tokens, you don't have to launch a token. If you want to mint tokens out of thin air, go make an LP and it will mint you a token. You can then take that LP token and create it and make it yours. And if it's something that you want to add value to, you can pair it with other things and arbitrage it and grow in the LP or position.
Yep, good points. I wonder how far away this game is. I haven't really heard much more about it for quite some time, to be honest. So
unfortunately, somebody updated the text screener for Atropa and the dev didn't like that. So things are a little slower these days.
The angry kid. Wherever you are, the angry kid. We're all angry at you. What's going on, Ram? Yeah, cool, guys. I mean, I'm pretty content with where everything is at the minute. I don't know if you guys want to say anything else or share anything else. Otherwise, we'll just kind of wrap this up. Unless there's any extra questions in the chats that anyone wants answered. I did my best to try and follow. So why does everyone say it's burnt like it's fact? Well, what Sonny was highlighting is once, for example, when you send a PLP to the burn address, then it is as a fact burnt because nobody can take it out of that burn address. Whereas if you send it to a contract, there might be something written into the contract that you can actually take it out. But yeah, once it's burnt, I mean, it is a fact. So I don't know. So I'll bring that question up. So, the question is up. So yeah, I hope that makes it a bit clearer, Charlie, because that was something that you were commenting a little bit about quite a lot with the burnt LP. So, I mean, yeah, it's kind of, it's a different concept to, like, say in Solana, you have the lock liquidities, but with lock liquidity, it's lock liquidity. Who was saying this? That was yesterday, I think. That was John saying yesterday. And, on Dex Screener, so I'll just quickly show, like on Dex Screener, you have the little, this is what people do. It's like, the liquidity, and it's got the little green lock there, and it's like, oh, great, this is a safe investment. But they can just click a button and it's unlocked. So it's like an illusion of safety. Whereas this, if you just look in the blockchain, okay, you'll be able to see there was a PLP created at this time, and then that PLP was sent to, say, the debt address. And then you know for a fact, it's irrefutable that that's burnt liquidity. It can't be reversed. It's actually burnt liquidity that's impossible to extract out of. So yeah, I think that's like at least my understanding of why it's a fact. So keep up the stream, sir. Always a real treat when I can actually make it here. Nice, man. Thanks. And thanks for the super chat, bro. I appreciate that. So yeah, thanks very much, guys. Almighty wants to do a space sometime. Definitely Almighty. He's stirring up in there. Just get in there, man. Get in there. So nothing beats a good thanks, Iron Freedom. Appreciate it, man. So I think what do you think about Brandon? So I mean, what do I think? Yeah, I mean, if you believe in the PRC20 narrative, but then look into the specifics of both of those, because one, from my understanding, one of them is like the from Ethereum, where the price is kind of tied to what it can end up being on Ethereum, and the other one is tied to the forked Ethereum, which is tied to the Pulsechain value. So I would just be like mindful of that. So hey, Almighty, thanks, brother. Awesome. Thanks, Billy Mack. Yeah, let's wrap this up, guys. So any final statements before we say goodbyes?
Enjoyed it, Stephen. If there's any follow-ups, just you know how to contact me. Appreciate you having me on.
Likewise, bud. Yeah, thanks for sharing some of your alpha as well. Like it's really cool that you have this wealth of experience and you're seeing those patterns in like the patterns in TradFi, and you're seeing those kind of principles emerge on Pulsechain. I really like that. That gives me even more conviction because obviously, you know, I'm still relatively a noob to all of this. So yeah, thanks a lot for coming on and sharing more of your alpha with us today. And of course, Sonny, any closing statements? Always appreciate you. I think as soon as you come on, everyone just, Sonny's here. Everyone gets excited. So
yeah, man, it's the holidays and most of us are doing pretty good, man. Share that with your community, donate to people, make the world a better place.
yeah. And what did you talk about the pub? Do you want to mention that quickly, Sonny? I saw the tweet that you did where basically from the efforts of the pub, there's been like what, thousands of maybe just mention that tweet that I saw this morning.
I mean, I know in America anyway, but you can very easily go from crypto into Bitrefill and buy Amazon gift cards and use them on the app. And they have like bulk homeless things. And you just put the address for a homeless shelter and totally ain't on whatever you want, right? So we went and just bought a bunch of those and sent them just to homeless shelters. And you know, I guarantee there's a lot of people out here that won't help homeless people, and that's fine. Just go help something else in your community, something in the real world, something that's bigger than you.
Love it. Yeah, love it. When I saw that was awesome. I think, I feel like even from that perspective, Pulsechain is ahead of the game, even in that regard. And that probably, again, starts from, you know, Richard Hart kind of setting the precedence for that with the $27 million to the Sense Foundation. So we really have, I believe, a higher wavelength of consciousness in Pulsechain. So awesome. Thank you very much, guys. Hopefully, we'll see how we go for the next particular one. But thanks everyone for joining. Thanks everyone for commenting. Thanks for liking, sharing it out. And everybody, have a safe holidays and we'll talk soon.